Were you even listening? No. I waited for your go ahead, but you were still on to everything and nothing. Oh, your head stuck in another land, making all these other plans. I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying to break you out of your own mind. I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying. Let's go back to being 17 before we lost it. I know you've been wondering, is this what I really wanted? I didn't think so. No, I didn't think so. Come a little closer, no. I'm trying to get through to you, break and make you follow everything you wanted. Go, just see how far you really come. Wake up, baby, feel the sun. I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying to break you out of your own mind. I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying. Let's go back to being 17 before we lost it. I know you've been wondering, is this what I really wanted? I didn't think so. No, 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 I didn't think so.
Good afternoon. It helps if you have screens ready before you need to switch them. So Jen will be here in a bit. She's at the store currently right now. So if you see her or don't see her absence in chat, if you notice her absence in chat, that would be why. Make up your own way to say it. Wow. So interesting news coming in today. And we're gonna touch on some of that. Wow, it amazes me because I keep my nose in the news as much as I can, and even then, so much can be missed, not noticed. And Aaron has shared some articles with me today, which I find extremely interesting. And then Full Spectrum Survival on their video this morning had talked about something that is really interesting, and we're gonna the monologue today when I get to that part, it's gonna be it's gonna be about us getting our acts together, because wow, again, a lot of this stuff slipped under the radar with me, and I honestly. Here's the thing. Sometimes we get caught up in distractions without even noticing it. Sometimes we get caught up in distractions trying to avoid the distractions. And that's what happened to me. That is absolutely what happened to me. So it's insane. I mean, I know I got quite a bit of stuff that I do as it is, and so it's not, it's not something that's uncommon for me to get busy and not be able to pay attention to things that I would like to pay attention to. Um, it just happens. Like, for instance, much of the day I've been again working with the website. Still haven't come up with a menu I'm happy with. I'm probably going to have to go with the default menu that comes with the script. I have no idea why the menus aren't working correctly. I have not, for the life of me, I can't figure it out. But anyway, I did do some more work on it today. The script that's in there right now is what I call my beater script. What it is I check out different extensions, find out what I'm going to want, what I'm going to need, and then I put those all in a folder, and then I clear the site. I like you format your hard drive. I clear the site completely off, reinstall a fresh copy of the site, and then put in all those extensions that I decided upon, and that way I start with a fresh site. You'll notice a pattern with that. You guys notice with the server I do that. I'll even do it with operating systems, like with Windows. I will do some testing. I'll do this, I'll do that, and then I'll wipe the operating system and start fresh once again. Because I don't know, I'm just OCD about that, I guess. But I like things to run smoothly and briskly, and especially when it comes to Windows. So anyway, I did get the connectors in today for the solar panels to be able to connect the two solar panels together the correct way, not with jabbing a wire in there and wrapping electrical tape around it, that is. And then the other connectors that I could, the wires that I had jabbed in there, that I could put the proper connectors, the MC4 connectors, on those wires. So those did come in today. I actually did get them all put on, and took out the batteries with the panels in the sun for a little bit. Was pretty pleased with the charge rate that I had gotten out of it. So the sun had started to go down behind a tree that we have in a neighboring yard. So I went ahead and I pulled the stuff in, reconfigured the two batteries from 12 volt back to 24 volts, so I could get it hooked up to the battery backup system that the computers are running on. And so today, as far as that particular task was a success. So today I am 1 for 2 because I didn't get a menu squared away. So anyway, actually no, I'm 1 for 3 because I tried to I tried to install the LEDs in a friend of mine's television, and the LEDs they sent her aren't any good. So the LED strips, they each got one light out on them. Well, two of the strips, there's three. Two of the strips each have an LED out, and one of the strips, the connector was bad when she got it. So gonna have to contact who she bought it from and see how they want to handle it. So I'm actually 1 for 3 today, but only one of those I'll take claim to being my fault. Well, and I don't know if I can take claim to that being my fault. I don't know why these menus isn't coming up right. So I have no idea. So wow. So I got all that taken care of. We're good to go with the solar for now. I know the solar charge controller was telling me that I was pulling in 4 amps. Which I think was probably likely very close to 5. And like I said, I was impressed with how much they brought the batteries back up. I was really super impressed because I had to pull the batteries down to be able to charge them back up. And so I unplugged the power out of this UPS, this battery backup system for the computers. And I've got two 20 amp hour 12 volt batteries hooked in a series for 24 volt. So essentially it's still 20 amp hour. And before it started screaming at me that the batteries were low, it ran these computers. I've got way more hooked up to that thing than it's intended for, I think. I've got the server computer hooked up to it. I've got this computer I'm using hooked up to it. The 3 monitors, a router, and a modem all hooked up to that thing. And which is probably way more than what it's intended, and it ran them for about an hour. So I was beyond impressed with that. I really, really was. The original batteries that go in it, if I'm not mistaken, they were 7 amp hour, and what's hooked up to it is 20. So I know the batteries, they say right on the side of them, the original batteries, they say something like 10 or 15 minutes or something like that is all you can expect out of that unit. And so I was quite impressed. I was quite pleased with how well it did. So anyway, let me go ahead and get through the financials, and then we'll go through the Twitter stuff, and then we'll get to business. So anyway, let's see here. YouTube. We lost another subscriber. You guys are probably getting old that's getting old, I'm sure, by now. Yeah, I'm so heart-wrenched, but we did lose another subscriber. Bye, Felicia. And we are at 319. We also lost cash. So it is what it is. It's ScrewTube, right? So that's what's happening over there. Steam. I don't believe anything yet today, so we shall see. I'll refresh. We'll look. Nope. Nope, nothing yet today. And by the way, howdy over there on DLive for those folks over on DLive. I probably don't give them folks enough attention over there, and in fact, today I actually popped out the chat. Not that there's a lot of chat over there, but I went ahead and popped it out just in case. So if you're over there watching on DLive, I will do my best. If you've got any questions or anything like that, Evil also monitors the chat over there. Not evil as in Satan evil, but, evil as in evil Rick. He monitors over there as well. So, if there's something you want to ask me or something like that over there in the DLive chat, and I'm not responding or you can't get my attention, just say evil 3 times. I'm telling you, it works. You say evil 3 times, and he'll get my attention. We also chat in something called Discord, and which DLive is largely gamers, so you probably all well know what Discord is. And he can relay a message or just say, hey, dumbass, go look in the DLive chat. So anyway, like I said, any questions, comments, or anything like that, feel free over there. And let's see here. Let me get those 2 closed. And AdSense. Somebody's been doing the old click, click, clickaroo. So we're up to $1.09 today so far in AdSense earnings. That is awesome. Much, much appreciated. Yesterday we had 56 cents total. So far for the month, $4.09. So still waiting, obviously, for the YouTube to move over. It'll be, like I've said, anytime between now and the 15th. We'll see that update. So it's going to be a little while before we build up that $100 threshold, but it is what it is. I don't complain. I consider absolutely everything a blessing. So it is what it is. I'm not here to make money, but I will most definitely put back into the show with what we do make. Speaking of that, here soon, as far as I know, we're getting new windows put in where we live. So when we do, I have to move my desk so the gentleman can work. And so I'm thinking about changing walls as to where we're at. And we don't go on camera very often, but when we have, you would notice there's a wood panel wall behind us, and there's a window in the wall behind us. And I think I'm going to switch to the opposite side of the room. There's a nice gray wall back there. However, the reason why I would like to do that is I think it would probably work out a little bit better, but also I think it would be easier and more, it would make more sense if I put up a green screen to do so over there. So that is in the plans. It is in the plans to put up a green screen, and once that green screen is up, you guys will see us on camera much, much more often. Because it's just, I want to put us somewhere cool. I want it to look cool. I want it to look, it just, I don't know. I'm just like that. Call me OCD, call me whatever, just don't call me late for dinner. So anyway, that is where we are at on the AdSense. And of course, I've got the phone ringing. Give me 1 second here. I will actually pay Full Spectrum Survival while I take this.
This is Full Spectrum Survival's News in 2 Minutes. Economic strategists around the world are warning that a trade war that is being initiated by the United States and not backed down by opposing forces of economic prowess, including Russia and China, may be the single ember that starts a global fire of military action and economic failure, with some warning that the events coming in the near future were destined to happen at some point in the current and ongoing economic collapse. The warnings follow correspondence between major European powers as well as the European Union, who have sent official letters of intent to the United States urging Washington not to go ahead with planned secondary actions. In news that you will not see on major Western outlets, a Moroccan human rights group has released a report accusing U.S.-backed Kurdish groups that the U.S. reportedly arms and directly supports who are operating in Syria of sending Moroccan women married to ISIS fighters into areas under extreme duress that are controlled by terrorist organizations. In other news, non-government organizations are warning that a global refugee crisis is taking place, with new reports showing that 1 out of every 100 people that live on this planet right now is a refugee around the Earth, the highest number of humans ever fleeing danger for one reason or another, with millions upon millions moving constantly or living in refugee camps in conditions that you could not dream to be worse. China has warned the United States that it risks recursive military action near the disputed islands in the South China Sea, following what that nation sees as threats to its sovereignty and ability to control land within that region. In response to recent military action, China released the following statement, quote, "China won't be scared by any so-called military ship or aircraft, and we will only even more staunchly take all necessary steps to defend the country's sovereignty and security to protect the peace and stability of the South China Sea region." And to wrap things up, researchers are proving that homemade pesticide from tobacco plants works as well or better than chemical pesticides, and mathematical tools developed by the University of Washington will be applied to global scenarios to see when order will devolve into chaos within our world. And that wraps up this episode of the News in 2 Minutes. This week's News in 2 Minutes is brought to you in part by Soul-Arc.com, offering EMP, CME, and lightning-protected solar kits to our community. With multiple kilowatt power options protected from radiation and exposure, you will be able to retain personal infrastructure when others cannot. And ProTripTips.com, from a member of our active community with the understanding that you are your own first and last line of defense. Pro Trip Tips offers a course that will turn you into a harder target while on the road.
Alrighty, sorry about that interruption. So, and I don't even remember for sure where I was at there. So, trying to think. Oh yeah, I was. I think I was just explaining stuff. Yeah, we just put that back into, anything when we get it here, we just put it back into different projects and stuff like we do. And, I also put Steemit money towards those projects. We don't have a threshold per se to wait over there on Steemit. So that's how I got the solar connectors for the electrical connectors for the solar, was from Steemit that I had cashed in. So essentially it goes back in, and there will be another video. I didn't do one today, but there will be another video showing all of that stuff. And showing the upgrades to it and showing it in action. And with everything going on today, I just didn't want to try. But I was talking actually more about green screen and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of part of what things would go towards too, is getting a green screen so we could be on camera a lot more. That is my goal, is to be on camera a lot more, and to be able to just bring something just a little more than what we have been, step things up a little bit. It would be nice if we were on camera when I did the monologue, for instance. There's going to be some very positive changes coming, and I don't know exactly everything, all the details quite yet. But we're gonna switch stuff up a little bit. We're going to involve more us in the show, I think. And I'm not quite sure how I'm going to manage that. When we originally came back from our break, we had a we had a different style format of show, and what that was is we were only on for 3 hours, and what it was is the first hour was my hour. I covered news stories and stuff like that. And, there were news articles I read. I would speak about them and stuff like that for the first hour. Second hour was playing videos like I pretty much do all the time. And the third hour, I was leaving up to all of you. If you had something you wanted to talk about or whatever, we'd shift gears, pay attention more to the chat. Well, Jen always pays attention to the chat. But I mean, I would myself. I'm normally bouncing around so much, checking out different articles and news stories and stuff like that, that, a lot of times, like right now, I don't even see the chat, to be honest, which is an issue. There's so many things I want to do, and I do have the tools here to do this stuff. I just got to get so used to, getting everything set up. I've got a tablet that I can put the chat on. There are so many different ways that I can better do all of this. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to figure out how I can better streamline the show. I'm trying to find out how I can better interject us into the show, and at the same time not go crazy trying to do it, because believe it or not, I still stay pretty busy here while videos are playing and stuff like that. Today when Jen gets back, I still got to make supper. So we're actually going to grill some pork steaks today. And so actually during the show, I'm going to be going back and forth grilling. Normally we eat earlier. Normally I make dinner at like noon, between noon and 1, so we can get that all out of the way before the show. But anyway, I won't bore you with all that stuff. We just want to change things up. We want to add more to it, and go a little further with things. So, yeah, I see that on the. I did look over in the chat. Yeah, I don't know what you were saying. It's cheaper than a green screen. You can get green screens for like really, really cheap, and okay, you were saying a green bed sheet. You can actually get a green screen for roughly the same price. They're not expensive. So I'm not going to spend a fortune on it. I'm going to have to probably get 2 of them to cover the amount of area that I need to cover. And I'm just going to get cheap green screens off of eBay. And then I'll probably build a PVC frame to hang them from. And then most likely we'll have those cheap clip lamps that you can get to put in a garage or whatever. Probably have 2 or 3 of those to light with. That's all. I'm not going to go all out. Not going to go crazy. We're just going to bump things up a notch. I think that would be a very positive direction to take the show. So that's the plan anyway. And all that, like I say, it's just a matter of getting the stuff. And right now we've been focused on getting projects finished up. I've still got to there's 2 different more water filters that I want to do for you guys. I didn't forget about those. They're still there. We were just kind of sewing up the loose ends on the solar stuff. And then we can go from there. So unfortunately we don't have a fortune to throw at all of this. So, but we do what we can, and we'll make it. And like I say, I want to bump things up because I think it's time for that. I hope we have time for that, and the monologue is going to go into that a little bit deeper. So, let me go ahead and bring up Twitter, and we'll discuss that stuff. Okay, let's see. And you heard the news in 2 minutes already. I did tweet that out this morning, and I thought that was pretty important. I'll probably go ahead, since it's only a couple of minutes, and I'll probably play it again. The thing with news in 2 minutes, he covers so many things that I literally have to watch it 2 or 3 times to even catch everything he says. So we'll probably play that again, but as I put out there, I can't say it enough. Get your houses in order. How many world wars will it take before someone brings the fight here? The owl would say 3. And which, by the way, that was not only a reference to the Charms Blow Pops, but it was also in chat one time. I saw you guys talking about it, and I saw, I think you were here and asked how many licks it would take. That went through my mind when I typed that out. So thought that was kind of humorous. And you're here again. Okay, car rams into gates of hell. No, car rams into gates of U.S. Embassy in Seoul. Concern grows after Yellowstone's largest geyser erupts for the 8th time since March. Now, I read the article on this, and, they're saying there's nothing to worry about, nothing to worry about. Do not forget that they were telling the folks down in Guatemala that there was nothing to worry about. Okay, don't forget about that. It had been since 2014 since that geyser had erupted previously, and since March it's erupted 8 times. Now, it has been active in the past like that, but it's something that's very infrequent, and in light of everything else going on, all the other volcanoes popping up, the earthquakes, and everything else, I'm not saying the end is nigh, start running in the streets with a cardboard sign. I'm not saying that. I'm saying let's keep an eye on it. Let's make that a consideration to pay attention to. Definitely in the news with that. Russian President Putin held annual direct line Q&A session. Swedish court sentences Stockholm attacker to life in prison for terror crimes. Blast at French chemical plant leaves 3 injured. Swedish government approves construction of Nord Stream 2 pipeline. This is getting me with everything in Sweden. Man, I'm trying to wrap my mind around all of this. I really am, and I'm having a pretty tough time, to be honest. Wow. I don't know what to think. I'll get into that here in a moment. Macron on new U.S. metal tariffs, trade war to hit American workers first. That's interesting. I sure hope not, but pardon me. We'll see. I mean, I don't think our steel workers could take any more, to be honest. They're just now starting to get back up off their feet. Trump says he can't take sanctions off North Korea. And NASA exposes Curiosity's rover's latest findings from Mars. And I really, honestly, I don't know what those findings are. I posted that. I wanted to watch the video, but I just didn't have time. Wow, sitting here yawning. I can't believe that. Let's see. So let me go back to this article here. This is interesting, and in the news in 2 minutes, he talks about China and how they're preparing for war. Sweden had just passed out pamphlets. And I think, Aaron, I don't know if that was the pamphlet that you shared with me, the actual pamphlet from Sweden. I'm bringing that up now. Trying to. So I can download a copy of it. By the way, I got another crazy video to show you guys. If you guys remember the African American gentleman that was barbecuing in, I think it was Seattle. And he had the woman absolutely flipping out. Yeah, well, it wasn't a barbecue, but I've got video of another woman flipping out. We'll play it during the monologue. So this is the pamphlet that was sent out, and man, somebody put some sleeping pills in my coffee, I think. This is a pamphlet that was sent out to the people in Sweden, and it would seem, though, with the National Guard being called up and everything else, now Dabu had reported on that, the National Guard had been called up, there is clearly something going on, okay? Clearly something is up. Now, Dabu, kind of from listening to his video, I tend to think that he feels, or the information that he has points towards China for some reason, somehow. And I don't know how much sense that makes. I was talking briefly to Aaron about it over, Facebook, and he was thinking more maybe along the lines of the Ruskies. But that doesn't coincide at all with this. Because if there was an issue between Russia and Sweden, Sweden wouldn't have given the okay for the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. So I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around what the hell is really going on. And I do know one thing. I know in the end, it kind of, whatever it is that happens that ignites this fire doesn't matter. What matters to us is the fire. We have to be ready for the fire. And, we can't keep saying it's not going to happen to us. We can't keep saying, well, that's not going to happen, or, it's never happened before. You know what? We've never been invaded by foreign troops before on our mainland. Never. Not since we stole the land. How else do you want me to say it? We haven't ever been invaded by an invading force. Now, I would think that would make it a bit overdue. I would also think that other countries would be aware of this fact. There are so many aspects of this to discuss that it's pretty horrifying. If we go back and we look at like World War I and World War II, there was a lot of things then that made it harder for them to just come over here and invade. Transportation being a large part of that. Now transportation's not an issue. Defense is. Defense is still an issue, but defense is an issue whether we're invading somewhere else or they're invading here or whatever. That's going to be an issue on all sides. But I do think that if this explodes back out into a third world war, I do think we're going to be looking at an invasion right here. And when I see this stuff in the news, when I see this stuff coming up, and I see these other countries taking these actions like this, which are not light. They are not light at all. When you start sending all of your citizens a pamphlet, essentially telling them to get ready, I don't consider that light. In fact, I think that goes above and beyond a mere suggestion. And I can't urge enough for folks to get ready. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Because now that I'm doing the monologues, it allows me to say something that people are more likely to hear. Although they don't get a ton of views, they'll still be out there. I'm still doing my part, trying to get the information out there. And you guys have heard about my priority list. And I wanted to go over that in a monologue. And I wanted to look at that. And I wanted to kind of focus on that. And then we'll play a crazy woman video. How's that sound? So I've got a list of 4 priorities. And you can add as many as you want to the end. But I would not touch those top 4 priorities. And so I want to run down through those. Because I think it's essentially important that they're prioritized correctly. I think this is where a lot of preppers go wrong. It really, really, I think it is. So number one on the list is spiritual. And I know automatically some people would be like, well, I don't believe in God. Okay. Well, whatever it is that you want to worship or look up to, I don't care if it's your toaster, I don't care if it's your blender, I don't care what it is. Whatever it is that you see that is greater than you. Because I think a lot of us realize that there is something greater than us. Even if it's the Mother Earth. I think there's a lot of people that have some kind of a realization that there is something bigger. And that's important. So I'm not going to hold anybody to the fire, so to speak, no pun intended, if they're not a believer. Okay? But I also will not take that off of number one in the priority list. Because whether or not you believe in God is moot. You have to believe in something bigger than yourself. If you don't, you might as well just give up the fight right now. I'm telling you that. And you may be somebody out there that may be saying something like, well, I'm doing this for my kids. Okay. So you're looking at the cause of your kids being greater than yourself. Okay, boom. There you go. There's your God. So whatever it is that you are doing this for, whatever it is that motivates you to do this from the beginning, that is your greater purpose. Now, I am doing it for God. I'm not doing it to survive for myself. I'm not doing it for a lot of the reasons why a lot of people would probably think. I'm doing it for God. I want to do this for God. I want to carry on His word. I want to help other people make it through this. And I want to do it all in His glory. So that is in my mind and in my actions definitely number one on the list. Now, the reason that is on the list, though, isn't because your motivation would be to do it in the glory of God, although I would say that would be an awesome thing to do. Your reasoning for that is because when all else fails, when every single else fails, you need something to grab onto to right yourself. You need something that will help pull you through any dark moment you may have. Something to make sure you don't give up and you don't give in. That is why that is number one. That is the most important thing. Because nothing else matters if you give up. Nothing else matters if you give up. Number two is to get your mental house in order. Now, you can do this any number of ways. I don't recommend you turn on a bunch of TV shows. There's a bunch of incredible books out there if you would like to read them. Angry American is the author. His real name is Chris Weatherman. Walt Browning has 3 books out in his series right now. Angry American has 10 books out in his series. Angry American series is called either the Survivalist series or the Going Home series. I've seen it called both. I would highly recommend you start with those. Right now there's 9 books out. He's working on the 10th book. And absolutely mind-blowing, incredible. The guy is an absolute genius author. William Forstchen is another good author. He's got 3 books in a series. Let's see, 1 Second After, 1 Year After, and The Final Day are those 3 books. It's a great way to get mentally prepared, to read those books, to sink your mind into those books, and literally do everything you can to mentally put yourself in that position. So when that time comes, when things like that approach you, you'll be a little more familiar with it. You'll be a little more understanding with it. Because there's going to be a lot of crazy things, folks, and if you're not prepared for it mentally, wow. Again, everything under these lists, everything under them doesn't matter. If you don't have something to hold on to when things get rough, that number one priority, in my case it's God. If you don't have that, it doesn't matter how mentally stable you are, it doesn't matter how many toys you have, none of that matters. It just doesn't matter. And the same with number 2, being mentally prepared. If you don't have that in order, Again, it doesn't matter how many toys you have. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. If you lose your mind, you're not going to be able to perform. You're not going to be able to function. And there's going to be a lot of crazy things and a lot of little things that we're going to have to accept that just in today's world, in our society, in this thing we call civilization, we can't comprehend. One of those things is, I'll just throw it out there, executions. You may think, what? Executions? Yeah, executions. And these books that I've read, there have been situations, and I'm not just going by these books I've read, by the way. I'm going by many, many different things. I've researched this far more than reading, novels, okay? But you're going to have situations, and you're going to have to, in your group of people, there is going to be, and when I say group of people, I don't mean 3 or 4 people. I mean possibly even a town of people. And I don't mean a full town. I mean what's left of the town. You're going to have to lay down the law, and you're going to have to do so in a manner in which people know you're not to be screwed with. Okay? So if you've got somebody in one case, let me throw the situation out. This was in the book 1 Second After. In that book, there was a situation to where there was a couple of young men that had went into a nursing home and raided the nursing home of its medicine. Right? There were a couple of young drug addicts, and they went in there and they raided the medicines. Okay? Those 2 young men were executed. Now, the book was written well, and it wasn't something that was taken lightheartedly, and it wasn't taken, the author took you through the emotions of that, and how it was not something that the gentleman that did it, not something that he wanted to do. It was absolutely not something that he ever wanted to do. But that is a real situation that we could be facing in any number of crazy events, especially a long-term grid down situation, many different types of situations that we could be facing. So, that is definitely something that we need to be prepared for. Okay, number 3. Sorry about that, and I'm going to have to try to quicken this up. Jen just got back. Number 3 is knowledgeably prepared. You have to be knowledgeably prepared. Again, and it doesn't matter how many toys you have, or either, those toys are going to wear out, they're going to break, you're going to lose them, they're going to get stolen, any number of things that you could have in your arsenal of things to use to get past this time, and this time could stretch out for your entire life. If something happens to any of those things, guess what? You're going to have to improvise. You're going to have to adapt. You're going to have to modify things in order to still get the job done you need done. And that's going to take intelligence. That's going to take know-how. That's going to take true skill. So that's number 3, and it's important that's number 3. And in number 4, I don't need to spend any time on because it's physically prepared. Okay? Physically prepared. That would be all of your toys and your gadgets and your MREs and your all your stuff that you'd likely spend a fortune on gathering to be able to prepare for something like this. But see, a lot of people put those physical things first. Do not do that. You're setting yourself up for failure. And that's why I always go over those 4 and in that order. Spiritually prepared. I say spiritually prepared. I mean whatever it is that is greater than you. Okay? But for me, it is spiritual, and that's why I call it that. Number 2 is mentally prepared. Number 3 is knowledgeably prepared. I don't even know if that's a real word, but whatever. And number 4 is physically prepared. And there's a reason why they are in that order. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up the monologue real quick. I will play that video here momentarily. Let me help get groceries and stuff in. To those that just watched the monologue, I want to thank you. And for those that watched the live show, We'll be continuing it on in just a moment. Let me go ahead and get you guys a video, and we will go from there. Gonna go with, let me grab something. I'm trying to grab something real quick here. Here we go. Here's the Angry Prepper Outdoors with a video titled The Progression of Camping Gear to Bushcraft Gear. And to those that just want to watch the monologue, I'd like to say God bless you, we love you, and be one with your spirit.
Okay, YouTubers, this is the Angry Prepper. This is going to be a fairly short video on evolution from camping bag to bushcraft bag or a haversack. Okay, now I'm doing this video to show you the progression of how much better I got in being outdoors. Right, so I did a video a couple days ago talking about how bushcrafting is gear. How bushcrafting is knowledge and not gear. So I started out with this bag, and I graduated to this one, which is a middle, less gear, to minimal gear and straight survival skills with this bag, right? So this is what I went through, and I promote everybody should go through this, go through this kind of progression, right? Hell, if you go to this, whatever. But nonetheless, you're gonna develop some absolute survival skills because you're gonna learn what you need to do to be comfortable, to stay out of the elements, and to feed yourself when you're carrying something like this, right? When you're carrying something like these two, you're going to already have your shelter inside, whether it's your tent or your hammock, right? You're going to have your food and water inside. You're going to have a lot of things in here that you're not going to have in this, right? If any situation pops up, I can adapt to it and find what I need out there to make my situation better. In the wilderness, I mean, all right? But with these two, when I first started carrying it, I carried way too much, okay? So what I started doing, actually, was with this, I wrote down what I didn't need, or didn't use, rather, and I took it out. And what I needed, I wrote a list down, and I put it in. And I realized that this bag is too big now. Let's switch over to this. Now, when it's springtime, I'm carrying this because I'm carrying less, because all I'm carrying for springtime is my hammock and my wool blanket that I roll in the bottom, and that's it, right? I carry 2 water containers in this, I carry 3 in here, and I carry 1 in here. One goes on my hip belt on both of these bags. There goes 1 extra can in here and 2 extra in here. That's a lot of weight and a lot of space, but nonetheless, that's what I carry. And all of your weight, if not, comes from your water, right? The majority of your weight comes from the water, no matter which bag you carry. You notice the difference when you walk in with this bag with your canteen full of water, and then on your way out, you drink all your water, you dump the rest, and you hike out, it's a lot lighter. The same goes for this bag and this bag. So, this is just a progression of where I started and where I am now. Now, don't get me wrong, I do get in my lazy modes, and all I want to do is grab my bag, which is this one, and go out, right? This bag, you're going to have to work. If you're going to have to build a shelter, even when you're using a tarp, you still have to build a shelter, you still have to find bedding. It's a little more work than just popping up a hammock, which takes all of 5 minutes, right? Put the hammock in a tree, done. This, I have to sit here and build stakes. I have to make sure the bedding is right. I have to see which pressure point on my hip or shoulder needs more padding. That takes time. With this, again, hammock in a tree, done. With this, tent, air mat, done. This takes probably around 10 minutes or so. This takes around 5. This takes around 45 minutes to get it comfortable. Not so much to build, but to get it comfortable the way I like it. Alright, so like I said, the progression of where I am now. I'm here. I am looking to do a just a strict bedroll weekend. And I did one earlier before, but now that I know what I know, I'm going to carry less and just use the bedroll and no haversack. And then I'm going to do a scout weekend where I'm just carrying a knife and a water can with me, and that's it. Right? And then I have to build my shelter and bedding and everything from scratch. That's probably going to be later this year, if not early next year. All right, and it'll be labeled Scout Weekend. So this is pretty much it. Thank you for watching. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr. You can also listen to me on podcast, and you could watch my other channel, The Angry Prepper Urban. And please do me a favor, if you mind, you can press like and subscribe to this channel and subscribe to my Urban channel. Alright guys, thank you for watching.
Alright, sorry about that. Let's see. Let me get you a video here. Let me go ahead and go with this one right now. I could actually play that crazy video. Let me play that crazy video. I'm gonna warn you now. Be ready for the crazy white woman. Hang on, I'm trying to get the link to put in over here. I actually put it up so Evil could see it.
Excuse me.
I'm gonna try. Oh wow, that's tiny. Let me see what happens if I blow it up like that. Yeah, that might work. We're gonna go with this. This is crazy. This is what our country is coming to. It really is. Dude, don't sound very angry. I don't know. Oh, you know, you're talking. Never mind. I'm a tard. Forgive me. No, he's an alright guy. Angry Prepper is. He's not real comfortable on camera, but he's an alright guy. Okay, so this happened. Not long ago, we had this crazy incident with this with this woman and these guys barbecuing out in I think it was Seattle. And I'm not quite sure where this is at. I've tried finding information on this, but I haven't figured it out. Folks, we gotta stop this stuff. This is nuts.
Excuse me, ma'am. Are you good? Oh, I'm not required to give you my name, but.
So you're allowed to use flammable material in front of our office, and
Oh.
like if your name is flammable, that could blow us up.
No, ma'am, no, it can't. I wouldn't be
What is your name?
doing. I wouldn't be doing
What
this.
is your name?
Excuse me, man. I'm just sitting here trying to do my job.
Your name.
Are you
If
right?
you're working, you're required to give your name. What's your name?
Oh no, I'm not, ma'am.
Yeah, you are. Who
No.
legally allows you to work here?
My company, man. You can call the number on the side of the truck, man.
Legally,
All you want
who
to.
allows you to work here
Ma'am,
and leave flammable material outside of our workplace?
Ma'am,
Flammable.
it's flammable. It
Yeah.
is.
We have kids that come in
Okay.
there.
Yes,
What is
ma'am.
your
I
name?
totally understand.
So what is your name?
Ma'am, that's irrelevant right now.
For the 10th time, what is your name? Who do you work for? And who is allowing you to leave flammable material in front of our workplace? I know you think this is cute.
No, I don't think this is
Until
cute, ma'am.
your kids blow up because somebody like you.
Ma'am, you have a
you.
ma'am, can
You
you,
have kids.
ma'am, you're being real
Show all
disrespectful.
your friends. Show all your friends.
No, I'm not. I'm
You
just
are.
watching my back, ma'am. That's why I'm
Yeah,
videotaping
you
you.
watch your back.
I'm allowed to do this because I'm working.
You know where we work. We work here. We
Okay.
don't know the first thing about you.
Okay,
You know
ma'am.
that you're legally allowed to use that material.
Okay, ma'am, but
That's flammable
Ma'am.
material.
Okay.
And you're not taking
Are you done
it
talking so I can
seriously.
talk, ma'am?
I have asked you 10 times for your name and your company's name. You've given me neither. I'm about to call the cops. So what's your name?
Ma'am,
And what's your company
ma'am,
name?
go ahead and call the cops.
What?
I'm allowed to be here, ma'am.
Then prove it. What's your name?
I don't have to give you my name. What's your name, ma'am?
Excuse me? Go talk to my boss.
Okay.
I'm calling the cops on you.
Okay. Sure. Thank you,
You're
ma'am.
not allowed to use flammable material without identifying yourself. I think, you know what? Whoever you show this to, if they don't have kids, or if they don't understand how important it is to keep kids safe, that's ridiculous.
Yes, ma'am.
You're
Okay.
you're
You
laughing.
have a
at
blessed.
this.
No, I'm not,
You
ma'am.
are
You have a
laughing.
blessed day.
You're
You have a
laughing.
blessed day, ma'am. Thank you so
I
much.
really hope you haven't put anyone in danger.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
disgusting.
Oh, yes, ma'am. You have a blessed day. I'm just working hard. I'm just working hard. I'm doing my job, ma'am.
Give me your name.
Ma'am, I'm
You
just
get
doing
that
my
that's
job.
not legal. Do you get that?
Okay.
It's not legal to
Okay.
use flammable material in front of a workplace and not identify your name
Okay.
and who you work
That's
for.
illegal under what statute, man?
What's your name?
I'm sorry.
You'll find that out yourself.
Thank you, ma'am. You have a blessed day, ma'am. I'm sorry for the trouble. Well, y'all see what I go through every day. This lady, she's tripping. I'm just sitting out here working, trying to feed my kids. And she's tripping over my job. It's illegal and all that. She calling the cops. Well, I'll be posting this, you know what I mean? So, it reminds me of the lady on Facebook with the barbecue situation. It's flammable, you know? You can't cook out at a barbecue. Well, I got my cones up and everything, so, yeah. This is what I deal with. Thank y'all.
Absolutely insane. You know, they say you see something, say something. I see one hell of a crazy woman, but I mean, this is what this country has come to. I mean, it's absolute insanity. And the best thing that could be done in all of this would be that maybe I shouldn't speak the first thing that comes to my mind, but the best thing that could come of this, my head's just got to go there, right? But would be the best thing to come of this would be if she called the police and the police showed up and wound up giving her a huge fine for bothering them because of such petty stuff. But unfortunately, in today's day and age, it'd probably give her a medal. Because who knows? The guy could have I don't know, he might have some kind of a atrociously harmful plant material in his pocket or something. You know how that goes. So they certainly won't miss out on a chance to search or gather revenue. It is what it is. But anyway, I thought I would show that to you because I was aggravated by it. So I thought I would pass that aggravation on to you. Okay, Prepared Mind has a video titled "Prepper Insurance, Prep Check, and a Thank You."
Join me over at Patreon. For just $2 a month, you get new videos every day. As preppers, what do we do now? And this is just an exercise because right now there's no martial law on the streets, there's no rioting. I don't know of any bank closures where people can't get to their assets. But as preppers, we need to look at the potentials given where we're at the moment. And that's the interesting about being a prepper, is it's very fluid. If we were not flexible of mind, if we weren't fluid, able to move with what's happening, it wouldn't be much use to being a prepper, right? So what do? Well, we've done all of the things that are static. That is, they don't change, right? They're very even keeled. In other words, you need food, you need water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Because no matter which calamity hits us, whether it's war or economic failure, cyber attack, grid down, we need those items. Those take care of our Maslowian hierarchical needs, right? We need to make sure that we can survive through a day before we can look to building on top of that. When shit hits the fan, the entire pyramid, the building, is going to come down, leaving us with just those bare necessities, which is what you and I, our families, our groups, our community needs. Because right now, the lights are on, the gas pumps are flowing, you turn on the water and it comes out the tap. Got some delicious hot lemon water here. Still, there's action to be taken. As we move into a SHTF scenario, you start to take action. right? But do you have a plan? That is going to be critical. Do you have the preps? Right? A lot of people are going, well, when this starts to happen, right? When we start to see the crisis happen, or right when it happens, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy everything I need. I'm not telling anyone to do that. That's your plan. But if that's your plan, when do you execute it? 2 days into a collapse? 4 days? As a prepper, you're in the perfect position to think about it, understand it, and take action before it's too late. If you need cash, you get to decide. Get it now. If you need more food to get plumb up on your 3-month supply before everything shuts down, is this your time? Get it done. Right? Whatever your plan is it time to execute it? You get to decide. As a prepper, this is where the payoff comes, right? For years and years, you've been laughed at, right? Or you've been worried you're being laughed at. I get laughed at a lot. But for years and years, we've been getting ready for this. We knew it was coming, right? Whatever sacrifices you made, whatever, ways you had to pay for this, whether it was financial or what have you, now is when you reap the benefits of your insurance policy against something bad happening. Right? I don't gleefully approach this because it's going to make my life, just like everyone else, exceedingly difficult. But at the very least, I have that foundation of protection that being a prepper affords. Because I have food and water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Because I have plans, because I understand, I can predict where things are going. And I can predict, to the best of my ability, human behavior in my socio-economic little world. What's going on around me that can affect me? Can I protect myself? Can I feed myself, clothe, water, all those things? Can I protect those in my group? The answer is yeah. So that's the satisfaction you get from having the prepper insurance. Chance favors the prepared mind is yours. And I'm like, it's hard for me to shamelessly plug the preparedmind.club. That's good Black Rifle Coffee Company coffee. The best deals out there, whether products come from Amazon or 800gunsandammo.com. There's a link there for that, or the AR-500 body armor. Everything that's on the preparedmind.club is for you guys, and you guys are the one who support it. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much for supporting the preparedmind.club, the Prepared Mind at Patreon, right? The Prepared Mind at Facebook. The whole purpose behind all of this, the entire purpose, is to help people learn and get prepared. That's what I'm doing here. So you guys, Semper Fi, and I'll talk to you soon.
Alrighty. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and play Colonel Potter's video because it was good. I did listen to it today, and I'm going to go ahead and play that. That'll let me get stuff taken care of here as well, or at least started on it anyway. And again, it's Roy Potter QA, and the name of the video that he did this morning is titled The Age of Deceit and Fanaticism. Or is it fanaticism? I don't know. You make it up.
Prepared Mind at Patreon, right? The Prepared Mind at Facebook. The whole purpose behind all of this, the entire purpose, is to help people learn and get prepared. That's what I'm doing here. So you guys, Semper Fi, and I'll talk to you soon.
Alrighty. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and play Colonel Potter's video because it was good. I did listen to it today, And I'm going to go ahead and play that. That'll let me get stuff taken care of here as well, or at least started on it anyway. And again, it's Roy Potter QA, and the name of the video that he did this morning is titled The Age of Deceit and Fanaticism. Or is it fanaticism? I don't know. You make it up.
This the age of deceit and fanaticism. You know, things are getting crazy. I thought about this morning what I should cover, and of course the OIG report, which they keep trying to put off, the situation with the Mueller investigation and how out of control that has become and how it's ripping the country apart. There's so many really bad things happening that I just didn't know where to start. Welcome as you come in, by the way, everyone. You know, it really is a tactic to overwhelm you with mass. It's a principle of war, and they're doing it with information just as much as they do it with soldiers and mechanized units and air forces and all that. Same thing I've talked about before, but we're seeing so much of it at this point on all sides. What you would consider the conservative good side as opposed to the leftist bad side, if you want to use those terms, and I do. It's really getting to the point where it's almost like people are nuts, are crazy. I was listening to Lionel the other morning, and he says this often now. He says, "Don't lose your mind. You know, take it easy. Don't lose your mind." Now people will say, "Well, Roy, that's really weird coming from you because you get upset all the time." Yes, I do, but it's based on evidence, and it's based on information that I can corroborate. Okay. And it's calling our leader. Usually when I get upset, I'm calling the leaders or people who purport to be leaders, standing up with Trump, those types of things, or political leaders or whatever. Those are the people that I'm upset with. FBI, for instance, the DOJ, John McCain, those kinds of things. So there's a basis for what I'm doing, and there's a reason for what I'm doing. But that can be debated, and I'm not really here to try to excuse myself when I do lose my temper, because it's well known in the Potter family. There's a thing called the Potter temper, and we have one. And believe me, you don't want to have us go there. So I do try to keep it under control most of the time. But we have the Potter name is actually Viking. It's Norman. You know, the Norsemen came down to Normandy, which is the coast of France, and you know, back around 1000 AD, and settled there. But they were actually Vikings, and the Potter name is not British. It's actually Viking. It's actually Scandinavian. So I have that fighting Viking blood in me, and it can get wicked. It can get wicked. So anyway, But in my defense, and in those like me, unlike the fanatics that I am seeing pop up all over the place, not just on the left side, but on the supposed right, to start this off, I'll just read a quote from Barry Goldwater, and most of you will know where I'm going with this. This is a quote from Barry Goldwater, okay? Tolerance in the face of tyranny is no virtue. Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. Not fanaticism. And moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue. Moderation in the protection of liberty is no virtue. Extremism in the defense of freedom is no vice. You can look that up. Look, just Google Barry Goldwater, and you can just put in extremism in the defense of virtue and the defense of freedom is no vice, and you'll get that quote. And there are lots of others, but I wanted to start off with that and say that there's a difference between being adamant and forceful and making sure that you're emphasizing the points and standing up for truth. There's a difference between that and fanaticism. And fanaticism always involves deceit. Hence, the reason why I called this the age of deceit and fanaticism, because it's really gotten to that point. I'm not going to mention any specifics today. You can draw your own conclusions with what's in the news and what's happening. The attacks that are going on back and forth against people on both sides and people on the same side because they're not following their dogma. I'm going to show you my book here because I'm going to quote from it in a couple of places. Actually, it's on the same page. Just some things that I wrote here that I think are kind of important. And I've mentioned some of these before. Okay, actually, I'm going to go here first. Too often, because it becomes fashionable, we jump on a bandwagon based on emotion, not on evidence, not on the things that will help us to prove our case. And the people who are largely in control of this are also the ones that will point fingers at others and claim that they're somehow bad because they don't buy the fanaticism or they don't buy the emotions of the moment. Let me just read this, and then I'm going to read something out of Matthew. My quote, okay? We must examine. Now I'm talking about the facts and the history of the first century here, but it applies with what we're seeing today too, because you all probably heard me talk about the murder of Hypatia, the pagan leader, actually the head of the Alexandria Library, a beautiful, most intelligent woman whom the Christian fanatics killed, dismembered her, and it was a horrible thing. And that's what fanaticism turns to. The woman didn't deserve that, not at all, but it was merely because of who she was and what she stood for. And the people that couldn't get her and her kind to change their opinion then became violent over that. So let me read these things again. We must examine with particular demands on reason all aspects of the evidence if we are to be honest with ourselves. That's one quote. Then I'd like to quote this one. This is actually from an author. Let me give you the author so that you know who it is. And you're going to say, why would you quote those guys? Because I get information from all sources, okay? I don't go for things that just back up my own prejudices and biases. This is from Bajent, Lay, and Lincoln, Holy Blood, Holy Grail, okay? That's where this comes from, if any of you are familiar with it. And I know some of you will say, oh, that's... Hey, okay, just listen to what it says because it's true. This is quoting them, quote, to put dogma above truth is no way to honor God. And that, my friends, is a fact. And I'm not the only one that said that. Following fanaticism and demands of obedience to an idea is the first sign that there are some really bad things going on. The left does it all the time. You see it in Antifa. You see it actually throughout. Look at the leftist members of Congress and how they demand that you do what they tell you to do, that you get in line. And they'll swear it's constitutional when they do that. They'll bring up the Constitution when they want to argue their point, but very rarely do they ever back it up otherwise. As a matter of fact, they almost never do. I want to read another thing here, and you'll say, gee, Ro, why all this? Well, because we're getting too far afield here. We're getting too far afield. There are too many people. And I'm actually shocked to see the people that are acting the way they are and going where they're going. I've been absolutely shocked in the last few days about this. Let me read Matthew 23:15. And I quoted this once before too. And think about this as to people who are trying to get you to join their club or their movement or whatever. Apply it to them, okay? Because this is what happens. It's Matthew 23, verse 15. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye compass sea and land to make one proselyte, and when he is made, in other words, when you get him to come into your little group, ye make him twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. Man, isn't that the truth? So I wanted to bring that up today. I'm not planning on a long transmission this morning. Like I say, I'm kind of out and about. But I did want to touch base because this is getting out of control. And again, I'm not going to mention any particulars. You can go look at the news. You can go see what you think about things and use your own judgment. But, you know, I feared this back in November. I saw this coming, and it's just getting worse and worse. And especially since now we know the origins of some of that. But definitely that same mindset. It's not just being used for information and educating people. It's now become a situation where if you don't grab what they're telling you, then there's something wrong with you. I'm not going to take it any further than that. I'm enjoying my coffee here a little bit. Patty Burr is shocked. Roy, you've been all over the map. It's because I'm not intellectually dishonest, Patty. It's like I've said before. You know, I've gone through looking for the truth, looking for, you know, what really resonated with me. I've gone into things and checked them out. But I'm intellectually honest enough to say and to reveal when I find something that's wrong, I speak up. And I don't care what organization it is, be it religious, be it sectarian, be it corporate, be it governmental. It doesn't matter. You go by principle. And unfortunately, there's too much going on now with fanaticism and not with principle. And people are willing to deceive others to enforce their fanaticism. That's not a good place for us to be. Reason and evidence. Reason and evidence. I'll say it a third time. Reason and evidence. And it's notoriously lacking with a lot of folks today. Okay? Again, I'm not going to get into any particulars. You know, I'm going to leave it up to you to figure out where to go, okay? I could give you places to go listen, but you'll go, oh, no, not them. Okay, so it's not going to do me any good to say it because a lot of you are really good and you know exactly what I'm talking about. But there are those out there who are going to look at this, what I'm saying here, and rightly so to them, that they are being juvenile and they are being fanatics. And it's dangerous because the enemies who want to destroy this republic are using your own prejudices, biases, fanaticism, and ignorance against you that you think is holy and that you're truth seekers and that you're going down the road to reveal the evil on this or that or whatever. And you're not. You're not. I could mention the situation that happened in D.C. You know, we know the ties, the pedophilic ties that are going on within the government and within corporations. And it wasn't that the accusation about the D.C. location, if you can read between the lines, was wrong. It was how we went about it. Because it jumped into the emotional category before the evidence was gathered. Now, can we depend on law enforcement to do this? Probably not. But people and a lot of people are going to say, oh, Craig Sawyer, oh, yuck, Craig Sawyer. No. Craig Sawyer's proven himself, okay? Everybody has to have, a stake in what they do. Some of it's just, they want to help people. And I can't speak for all of Craig Sawyer's motivations, but he's proven to me, that's why I promote Veterans for Child Rescue. Yeah, they have to survive. Yeah, he's probably getting paid from it. I don't know that. That doesn't make any difference to me. He's doing something. Does that mean I agree with everything he says? Well, in a lot of things, he knows far more than I do, and I'd certainly admit that. But, there are people that are tearing him down right now, and that's not right. I heard somebody say, and I have a lot of respect for these people, and some of them are just looking for evidence. They're saying, give us the evidence. Where's the evidence of this? Well, as far as I'm concerned, the fruits of Craig Sawyer are good. Again, that doesn't mean that I agree with him on everything. Because, first of all, I don't trust the federal law enforcement at all, at any level, because I've seen what they do for too long. And that's one reason why it's probably good that citizens go out there and try to gather evidence. But there's a difference between evidence and emotional drama and staging. And especially when you have people that have a history of violent actions and pretenses and always saying guns are the issue. That's where we got to go. Have our guns and get up here and get ready to go. There are times for that, and at least in at least two situations that I know of in the last 3 years. I'm not talking about Bundy Ranch itself, but a couple of other things, including what's going on now. This idea that guns are the answer is just out of control. Reason and evidence, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't have it, don't come and talk to me. I don't want to hear it. So that's where I am today. I'm very disappointed that Congress would even consider giving Andy McCabe immunity. This is outrageous. They've got the evidence on him. They ought to arrest him now. But who's going to do it? Andy McCabe should just be to hell with it. He can take the fifth, arrest his ass, and put him in jail. Let him come up with bail to get out. I don't know. I don't even know under the charges if he could, if it goes to treason. But they keep wanting to, the deep state is playing with each other. Look what Trey Gowdy just did. Is anybody really surprised that Trey Gowdy would defend the FBI on their corruption and their criminal behavior? I'm not. That guy's been a drama theater major even as a member of Congress. And he impresses me when he talks, but his actions are just not there. And now the deep state is maneuvering to protect all these guys because the FBI and the DOJ is, with the senior executive service and all that, is their enforcement arm, along with the CIA and the military, against the American people wanting to get free from these intelligence community people, these deep staters. The American people want to get free from their democracy, their democratic institutions, where might makes right. That's what they're actually saying in the IC. That's what Clapper actually meant. That's what Brennan actually meant. That's what Comey actually meant. Might makes right. Might makes the government, not the people voting, not the people. Not the Republican, the constitutional Republican form of government, but two wolves eating a lamb for dinner. That's what they're saying, and that's what they believe in, that they have the right to dictate everything from start to finish. And there's some really bad stuff going on right now. I mean, even with Trump in there, you know, the situation with the DHS, Nielsen, I talked about the other day, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know, starting to get down names of bloggers and people and their position on issues and all that. You know, even under Trump, it just seems like nobody can stop this. I'm not going to blame Trump entirely. I see the problem in who he picked in the first place. Like I said, he's probably a political neophyte. He was just trying to keep the government running. Well, as I've said, embarrass the government, shut it down. I really don't care. We're probably better off. You know, I've heard some people say, you know, we don't even need governments anymore. You know, and we probably don't. They've done more damage than if we had anarchy. I'm convinced of that. 200 million people plus in the 20th century because of governments. Yeah. But the political reality is right now we still have to secure ourselves. But you know what? I don't think the American people are going to be able to pull this off. I don't think you are. Not with what I'm seeing. And like I said, I've seen some people come out here in the last few days. I thought, well, let's just say if the ones I'm looking at went down this rabbit hole, then boy, I was a real bad judge of character. Because it seems like to me, well, at any rate, I'm just disgusted. So we have all this deceit and fanaticism in Congress. Look what they did to Melania. Yeah, the poor woman was sick. She had to go in for surgery, and basically what they've done is they've maligned Melania and President Trump. Not on evidence, on emotion, on hearsay. And we're seeing that not just the leftists attacking Trump and Melania, but the people on the right. Again, I call Trump out on things that he does or does not do. Okay? If he stands for the agenda, I love the guy anyway. But if he can stand on the agenda and get it accomplished, then I can trust him. Because I see his rhetoric being matched on the ground. And there have been some problems there, and you all know about it. But these blatant, emotional, fanatical attacks are ridiculous. And here we go on some other things here recently. And it's the same group of people that started this back in November. It's really just ballooned out from there. And it's really disgusting. Okay. I'll go ahead. My big thing this morning was that, and also talking about the situation with the FBI corruption, the DOJ corruption. By the way, I saw some of these same people I'm talking about defending, oh, look at Sessions. He's hired all these DOJ people. You know, they're going after the bad guys. We don't need more DOJ attorneys, especially not in the war on drugs. Yeah, I know there's an opioid crisis. There's another way to combat that without giving the corrupt DOJ more people to screw up the country. I thought the idea was to cut down on the size of government. But those of you who think that those attorneys are actually going to be used against the deep state, man, are you being... You're being fooled. That's not what's happening there. It's just like those 30,000 or plus sealed indictments, you know. What are those really about? Well, it wasn't Trump's people that were in power to do that. Sorry, just not the case. Called for the release of the Wooten No. 2 memo down in the Bunkerville case in Nevada. We all need to do that. Those of you who aren't fanatics, you know, and understand what was really being the whole situation there and what actually occurred, and why it's so important, and why that memo from Wooten, that No. 2 memo, needs to be unsealed. And I called for President Trump to use his power to go ahead and unseal it and show how corrupt and disgusting the DOJ and the FBI and a lot of the other three-letter agencies are. That would, of course, include the Bureau of Land Management. So if Trump wants to do something positive to get the eyes off of him for a while and off this whole ridiculous witch hunt that Mueller and the Democrats are doing, all he has to do is order Jeff Sessions to go in and unseal that DOJ what the U.S. attorneys sealed there from BLM agent Wooten. And if Jeff Sessions refuses, fire his ass. And then President Trump just do it himself. I guarantee you the revelations from that are going to be incredible, and that needs to be done. Because I'm sick and tired of coddling the deep state and the intelligence community, which is the most dangerous enemy that we have in the entire world. The entire world. And the motto on my channel, of course, is the intel community is our most dangerous domestic enemy. Frankly, they're the most dangerous enemy in the entire world. It's no wonder, people try to defend themselves against this. Look what we've done. And people that just want to wave the flag and say, America, America, you got to open your eyes and see what's really happened in your name. Yeah, I'm on one this morning because I'm just disgusted with the way people are, and especially on the right, because I expected more. I expected some intelligence and some demands on reason. Strength in demonstrating, strength in demanding that things be done. That's one thing. But the rest of this is really out of hand. Candace K. Roy, those indictments are for MSK or MS-13 gang members. Then why haven't they arrested them? Can you answer me that? They haven't been arrested. Do you understand? I don't think it's just for MS-13. No, I don't think that, because Jeff Sessions isn't really doing that. They had that wave, and they're still doing it. I agree, but not 30,000 worth. No, sorry, I don't believe that. What's the evidence? What would keep you from arresting MS-13 members based on the indictments already issued? Nothing. No, this is a political deal. I guarantee you there's a political thing going on behind the scenes here. Those aren't Trump's people that are issuing those indictments. I'm sorry, they just aren't. Okay. Let's see what we go here. Trump is allowing the 5G to go ahead full force. Candace, well, that's true in one aspect, and I consider that to be bad. But he did shut down Broadcom, which was the Chinese control of our 5G. That's why Soros has moved to Europe. That was his plan B. That doesn't mean that Trump can keep control of it. I don't think we should go to 5G at all, but I talked about that being the ring of power and how it relates to the Lord of the Rings and to our government, and particularly the president, but be it Trump or somebody else. That is an aphrodisiac of power. Just think what they can do with that. And I've talked to some experts who say that even Trump can't stop it. The only thing that we can hope for is that the right people get in control of it, but you know how that works. The evil always does. And every weapon that's ever been devised has always been used. We're a wicked, wicked, evil race. Not all of us, not all individuals, but collectively. And collectively, actually, most people are okay. But those damn psychopaths and sociopaths always go to the top. Why? Because the people are too lazy to govern themselves. That's why. Just like this fanaticism that's going on now. Let's see who that is. Okay. All right, let's see a couple of other things. Like I said, I'm not getting into any details today. I just don't think it's worth it. Rusty Parker, this is all a big farce until everything is in place, then whammy unless we all come together. Well, the way I'm seeing it right now is, if you believe this thing, if you believe this, yeah, it's kind of, all right, we don't all come together. There's a remnant. That's the way the scriptures talk about it, a remnant. That doesn't sound too promising to me. I probably went into this with some idea. Yeah, I had one of my first videos was resolution of a former idealist, and even for that I took a lot of flack. But, you know, really, the realistic situation here is that, you know, it's a very small number of people that are actually willing to do the spiritual and intellectual and physical, make the proper efforts to raise themselves to a level that is honest and has some integrity. I'm not seeing many people willing to do that, especially like I said in the last few days. I'm about ready to turn off my Twitter, frankly, because it's turned into it's it's almost I could still get good information there because of some of the other things I follow, but I mean, it's really just out of control. It's out of control. Comey better attorney up. Well, Mark, I hope so. I hope that's where this is going. Yeah, McCabe and Comey seem to be at each other's throats. Yeah, I think, and you know, I've been yelling about, you know, FBI agents and other people coming forward. I've been begging for that for years, that they become whistleblowers. I know that the hazards involved. I've been there. I know. Believe me, I've been there. But your family's lives are at stake. Americans' lives are at stake. The world, the people of the world, their lives are at stake. So this cowardice of not wanting to come forward is just mind-boggling to me. You know, it's really just another form of passing their children through the fire of Molech. Their inaction, their silence as agreement is really nothing more than agreeing to worship Molech and pass their children through the fire. That's really what it is. And every day that they allow this government, these corrupt organizations, and I'm talking about these FBI agents, are afraid to testify, right? Every day they refuse to take action to correct this. More innocent people. What they've done to Trump, they do to the American people wholesale. Frame them, set them up, accuse them falsely. Put them in a situation where they have to fight to live, to survive. And then call them criminals for doing it. It's evil. It's perpetual. It's the cultivation of perpetual warfare. What we see with the DOD and the IC doing these regime changes and setting up these governments and then tearing them down. ISIS, setting up ISIS, then fighting ISIS, the enemy they create. Hamas, Israel setting up Hamas and then fighting Hamas. All this stuff. Well, it's the same thing here. They're doing the same thing to American citizens, and Congress lets them get away with it. President Trump's trying to reel it in, but look at Paul Ryan. If anybody ever doubted that he is a plant, that he really is a rhino, he really is, and worse, well, there should be no doubt in your mind now. He and McCain and all those guys are all in bed together. And they're not about you. They're about them. I just pray that Donald Trump can find the right people. When he stood up with all those military officers, back in October, was it? When he said, well, there's a storm coming, and the press was saying, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? He says, you'll see. Well, I hope that he has good people there. So far, I'm not so sure. But more than that, people that have the ability to make this happen. And I'm not sure that it's there. Not when I see what's going on, how easily, especially conservatives, emotionally jump on a bandwagon because it fits their narrative. Oh well. Okay. Looks like the chat's going pretty slow. How many people we got on here? Only a few hundred. Well, like I said, I didn't really come on here to go into any details today. It's almost getting fruitless to do that because so much is happening, and I try to give you, when I come on, like I did the other day, give you information that not everybody else is covering, because everybody else is covering it. All right. I like to maybe comment on it slightly and then move on, but I like to try to touch on things that aren't really being covered, because those are, it's a magic trick. They do this stuff out in the open to get your attention, but the real problems are going on over here. Like was just mentioned, the 5G and the stratospheric aerosol injection, the nanotech, the panopticon. That's the real danger. Remember, Comey said, we have a right. We're even going to demand that we look into your thoughts. Whatever happened to the Constitution? Whatever happened to the right to be an individual and be secure in yourself, your possessions, your papers, etc.? They've thrown it all away. And don't think it's to protect you. It's to protect them in their evil, damnable corruption and crimes. All you got to do is open your eyes and see it. Yeah, Davos and Bilderberg is pushing for 5G. Of course. Hey, Bliss, how you doing? Yes, of course, because that is part of the panopticon. That's what they've been working for a long time. And I don't know why, I would like to see Trump just come out and say the MSM is the IC. The 5G is a panopticon prison. It has technological advantages for mankind if it was used properly, but it's not going to be. I guess there's some places you just can't go. Okay. Yeah. Hooah. Michael Burns. Hooah. Hooah, sir. Well, hooah. Thank you. I appreciate that. A lot of people think I'm against the military. I'm really not. I'm against its misuse. It used to be called the Department of War. We were intellectually honest, and then we changed it for propaganda reasons to call it the Department of Defense, which it is not. It is not. It is being used to further the aims of the deep state, the New World Order, and to kill people wholesale. And but the idea of a warrior defending his people, that's noble. But even there, it's a necessary evil. But it's noble when it's done for the right reason. I've quoted Cicero before. I'm not going to do it here again. But the idea of force without justice is evil. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. Like I said, I just wanted to do a really quick one this morning. I'm hoping that Congress will not, I don't know what happened on this. Maybe it's already been decided. I'm hoping that they do not allow McCabe to get immunity. Again, that's going to send the wrong message, and they'll set up the entire deep state for immunity at that point. Just go ahead and use the evidence you've got. Collar him, throw him in jail, let him come up with bail and prosecute him. I'm sick of this. Coddling these battles. They can find out what's happened without McCabe. If they want to use him as a witness against the others, these are liars. Just go with the evidence you have. That's enough. That's all you need to lock these bastards and these bitches up. And that's what they are. Okay, everybody. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears on the ground. Keep your situational awareness on high. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. I know, prepping, I talk about that. People say, well, nothing's happening. Better be ready a year too early and a day too late. And praying always. We really need to do that. Everybody wants to be right. Kind of natural. But there are very, very few that want to get right. It's a pride thing. And we are a prideful and arrogant culture. God bless you. God bless the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America and the Second American Revolution. And may God bless Donald Trump in all of his righteous endeavors. And may God send the spirit of discernment down upon President Trump, that the power of discernment will distill upon him as the dews from heaven, and that he will be able to choose, see the right from the wrong, choose the right, and courageously defend it. And again, I'm glad to see that Melania Trump is coming along. She is, she really is. I think she's the real symbol of where we're supposed to be. So let's hope so. Okay. I think that's enough. I'm going to go ahead and check out. I'll run a little thing here. I don't even know which one it is, but I'm going to run a little thing that Pam Jones did. All of these intros and things, not all of them, all of the ones that I played today are things that Pam's done to me. And she's actually she got a hold of me yesterday. And she said, "Hey, Roy, if you send me the music you hear usually on my opening, when I do it normally over the long run that we've done, is music that I arranged back for the Crimson Thread movie, and all that early music was mine, and all the music that's coming on with Pam's, of course, is copyrighted material that she's using. But at any rate, yesterday she called me. She said, if you send me your opening battle arrangement, that's the one that is. I'll incorporate it in another intro video." So who can refuse that offer? So I went ahead and said, not that I won't use all the others that she's done, but having my own music is something that I of course I like. So we'll see how that works out. So we'll see how that works out. So I'm going to choose one of these. I don't know which one it's going to be. It's going to be about 30 seconds long, less than a minute, but I'll check out, say thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time out here.
Alrighty. I still working on the grill. It's actually still on fire out there. It's about ready to lay down the meat. So let's see here. What I'm going to play, and Evil shared this with me in Discord this morning. I seen it yesterday. I think it was yesterday in the because I am subscribed to the Blackstone Intelligence Network, and I was tempted to play it, but I didn't. Because, well, I don't know the channel that well, and I definitely don't want, there are certain things I don't want to promote here, and one of those things is just blind symbolism. So I was kind of concerned that that's kind of what it would just be flat blind symbolism. And so today I got a chance to listen to it, and I think I made it through pretty much of it today. And I was actually impressed with what the guy had to say. I agreed with most of it. And anyway, I figured I'd throw that on because it is really a good video. And it's actually an older video that he did that he re-uploaded. And I think he does a good job of explaining a lot of it. And it makes sense. It really does. But I see both sides of the coin, and I want to say that up front. Because, again, I refer to what's going on as far as, with the flag and the anthem. I see it as symbolism. And I see a situation where what that flag represents is not what's going on in this country. Now, I agree 100% with this gentleman that you don't blame the flag for that. You don't blame the anthem for that. And yeah, exactly, you don't. But people have to be woken up to what is going on. And that's where we run into a problem, because no matter how you choose to go about pointing out an injustice or go about airing your grievances to gain support for the airing of those grievances, somebody's going to have a problem with the way you're doing it, right? So if you're on the left and you're in the streets and you're protesting and you're chanting and you're carrying signs, you're going to have the right that's got a problem with that. If you're at a wildlife refuge and you essentially, for lack of better words, take the place over and demand your grievances be heard, the left is going to have an issue with that. So there's always going to be somebody that's got a problem. Always. Always. So we kind of have to ignore that part, really, in reality, because we've got to garner attention. Now, you know, I see all these different sides here, but I'll tell you what, I think this guy done such an incredible job explaining his side, and that's why I want to play his video. So it's, again, the channel is Blackstone Intelligence Network, and the video is titled, Why the Flag and the National Anthem Still Matter.
Welcome back to the End Times News Report. I'm your host, Jake Morphonios. Today is September 27th, 2017. I feel strongly that we should be speaking out in defense of America, including the symbols of our nation. And I'm talking about the American flag and our national anthem, those things that are being greatly disrespected right now in protests around the country. And I'm going to explain why I feel this way. What got me thinking about the need to talk about this a little bit more, share my thoughts with the viewing audience, is a conversation that I've been having with one of my viewers, a man from Australia named Daryl Emery. And what started out as kind of a pithy, witty exchange back and forth between us developed into a very thoughtful discussion. And I think that some of you will find these ideas interesting, so I'm going to share it with you. Because there's a lot of talk right now about the NFL protests of the flag and our anthem. I fully expect that this is going to continue to be a topic of conversation for a while, off and on, as we go forward. Because very likely, what we're probably going to see is these protests expand well outside of the NFL, outside of the realm of sports, and into virtually every social institution that we have. I think that we're going to see these kneeling protests and the Black Power thing, spreading all around, because it's kind of in vogue right now. This is fashionable to do this. And, Hollywood and those kind of on the left really like to jump on this. We've already seen, people like Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee kneeling in the congressional chamber and all of this. So I think that what is important is that those who share my side of thinking on this, so that we don't let the conversation to devolve into just a insults back and forth that doesn't do anything to promote good dialogue. I want to talk about this in a way that maybe is duplicatable. Some of this, of course, is just my own thoughts. Some of it might, though, go along with some of your thinking, and I hope that's the case. So after watching my last video on the NFL protest, Daryl wrote this. He said, "You honor a flag that destroys countries." And you know, that's a fair statement to make. And a lot of you share that same idea. So let me tell you what I think. I honor what the flag stands for, what it really stands for. What my government and what my country are, these are two different things. You've got the government of the United States and you've got the country. And so let me put it to you this way. Let me see if I've got a Bible around here. Yep. So here's just one copy of a Bible. If somebody picks up a Bible and smacks a child across the head with it, that doesn't make the Bible bad. It means that the person using the Bible has done something wrong, but we don't go and say and condemn the Bible for that. Likewise, I don't think that just because the United States government is doing bad things in the world, that doesn't mean that America is bad, because America is largely the people, we the people, our values, our traditions, our heritage, the things that we believe in, which are very, very different from what that relatively small segment of our country is within the government. Okay, very, very different. So those who misuse our country are to blame, not America as a whole. We do have a responsibility to stand against what our government is doing, and so that's one of the reasons I'm making this video, to encourage resistance in that way. Daryl said this. He wrote, "Well said, but what indeed does your flag stand for?" Because I was saying the flag does not represent what America is doing around the world with these wars. He said, "If indeed it is being used for other purposes, do you still stand for it?" I don't know, mate. Like I said before, I look into a man's eyes before I see the color of his skin or the flag draped around his shoulders. And I kind of joked with him. I pointed out, I said, you say that you don't notice the color of a man's skin. Is that because in Australia, approximately 1% of the population is black, with more than 91% white? Is that why you don't see? It's a very different thing. These racial issues are hard for people to understand if you don't have these kinds of tensions in your own community. I live in North Carolina. The largest city close to me is Greensboro, which is just 15 minutes down the road. Greensboro is 48% white, 41% black. So there is almost equal whites and blacks in the community. So these kinds of things are a part of everyday life where I live. Interracial relations, it's something that you have to deal with, for good or bad, on a regular basis. So my perspective is going to be very different from someone who lives, say, in Australia or somewhere else where you've got 1% of the population is black. It's a tough issue. As far as what I think my flag stands for, I believe that it is summed up in the verse in the national anthem, which is the Star-Spangled Banner. Let me read it to you. "Oh, thus be it ever, when free men shall stand between their loved home and the war's desolation, blessed with victory and peace, may the heaven-rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then conquer we must when our cause it is just, and this be our motto, in God is our trust. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph shall wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave." And what that means is that the flag of the United States of America stands for the blessings of God given to us when we obey Him. And those blessings specifically are peace and freedom. That's what the flag stands for. Peace and freedom. But we don't merit that power, those blessings from God, if we engage in causes that are not just. That's what the anthem says. It says we must be just in our cause. Clearly, what the United States government is doing in many nations around the world is not just. And that is why the peace and freedom, the blessings from God, are gradually being withdrawn from us as a nation. The government here in the United States, like many governments in Western Europe, have been taken control over by a relatively small cadre of wicked and designing men. If American citizens fight with all we have in us to defeat these wicked people, then God will be with us because our cause will be just. But if we shirk our duties as citizens and we don't rise to this challenge, we don't try and fight this evil that is taking over our country, we will not have God's protection. We will go down the path of collapse and obscurity, just like all the other empires in world history that came before us. So Daryl wrote this. He said, "I'm Australian. This is amusing to me. African slaves not willing to stand for the flag kind of makes sense to me." So being from Australia, I don't know a whole lot about Australia, but I know that rugby is a big deal in Australia. So I looked up the average wages or salary of the rugby players, the professional rugby players in Australia. And they earn on average $70,000 per year. That's average for professional rugby players. But in the United States, an average professional football player, earns around $2 million per year. And the top earners in the NFL get around $25 million per year. So in other words, if your average rugby stars over in Australia were actually citizens of the United States playing at the top of their game here, they would get paid about 30 times more money than what they get paid in Australia. So when I see these multimillionaire American football players disrespecting the nation that has afforded them with such magnificent wealth and opportunity while claiming that they are being kept down by Whitey, well, I just have no sympathy for them. No other country on earth provides the kinds of opportunities that the United States of America provides for its citizens. Most of these football players didn't come from affluent families. They rose from poverty, many of them. Not a single one of them was ever a slave. Not one. We can go down the list of the hundreds of players in the NFL. Not one of them was ever a slave. Not one of their parents or grandparents was a slave. Not a single one of them has ever been denied one single solitary opportunity in America because of the color of their skin. There is no such thing in America as a legally established quota system that mandates the selection of white-skinned people over black-skinned people. It doesn't exist. If our government chose to look at the color of someone's skin as the primary determining factor for promoting that individual, that would be racist. I would agree. You don't grant benefits or opportunities to someone based on the color of their skin. So, for example, if a very highly qualified black man applied for a job, the same job that a much lesser qualified white man applied for, and the position was given to the white man because he has white skin, that would be racism, right? And that's why I object to the system of racial quotas. I agree that racism is real. It's just that institutionalized racism against white skin is the problem in America, not against people who are black. If anyone should be out there doing this and kneeling, it should be the white people. I have been denied opportunities in my career because I had the wrong skin color. Because I'm white, though nobody seems to care. You've got white privilege, so it doesn't matter. America, once upon a time, it did discriminate against black people, and they had a legitimate complaint, and things needed to change. Martin Luther King Jr. was wise in proclaiming that what mattered was not the color of one's skin, but the content of their character. Who you are as a person is what matters, not what skin color you are. Right? But rather than simply stop at establishing a system of equality between men, between blacks and whites, what happened in America is that the pendulum swung all the way to the other direction and created a system of institutionalized racism against white people. Now, I am not suggesting that I think that whites are persecuted or discriminated against to the extent that blacks were. That is certainly not true. Absolutely not true. But my point is, blacks today have absolutely no justification whatsoever to be crying racism, that America is a racist nation. The fact is that we do have racism, and it is growing, but it's called black supremacy. It's a philosophy very different from what was espoused by Martin Luther King Jr. Black supremacy is a philosophy that was pushed by radicalized Muslims like Malcolm X, who worked hand in hand with the Marxist communists to tear down America and to try and bring our nation to its knees. Black power is not about racial equality. Black power is the same exact thing as the KKK's white supremacist philosophy. It's about racial superiority, and that's what these black NFL players are standing for. It's not for equality. They are multimillionaires. They are certainly doing well. So when they refuse to stand during our national anthem, or when they raise the symbol of black power during the anthem, the symbol being that raised clenched fist, they're saying, they're not saying, hey, we want equality. They're saying, we are going to tear your entire system down because you people are all racist. And I can't go along with that. In fact, the clenched fist thing that you see them do, that was and still is a primary symbol of the communist movement. It was first used by the paramilitary forces of the Jewish communists in Germany during the Weimar Republic, just before World War II. And you can look this up if you don't believe me. The group's name was Roter Front Kampfverbund, or the League of Red Front Fighters. And just like the Bolshevik communists that were in the Soviet Union that brought about the Russian Revolution, ushered in communism there, the leadership of the communist movement in Germany was Jewish, and the Jews proudly acknowledge this fact. You may not know this, but these Jewish communists actually succeeded in overthrowing the German government. It was temporary, didn't last more than just a day or two, but they did rise to power. They overthrew the German government. And yes, Hitler saw the Jewish communists as a threat, but that's because that's what they were. Communism takes over the government and then slaughters it turns the people into slaves. Communism is bad. And so these people, as they're trying to overthrow the German government and turn it into a communist state, that was very concerning to the German people. It's the same thing that the Jewish communists have done everywhere else in the world that they've managed to gain a foothold. It's what they're doing in America today, and a lot of you know that. Okay. In fact, at the time that the Jewish communists gained power in Germany, the Nazi Party was very small. It was rather insignificant. They had almost no power in the government. But seeing after the communists taking over control of the government temporarily, and knowing what that meant, the German people, they rapidly threw their support over the next handful of years behind a man who was promising to root out this Jewish communist threat. And that man, of course, was the head of the Nazi Party, this guy named Adolf Hitler. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm comparing Donald Trump to Hitler in some kind of bad way. I'm not one of those who says Trump is Hitler. But still, we can compare the phenomenon of what happened in Germany with the rise of the Nazi Party. The Jewish communists in America, they wear different political masks. They don't openly admit that they're communists. Well, they have upset the American people so much with their divide and conquer tactics during the Obama and Hillary years, and also during the George W. Bush neocon, Zionist, warmongering, war on terror crap, that the people of America got upset. 2016, they pushed back against this. They kind of swung way one direction. They said, we're going to abandon this traditional Republican Democrat thing. We need somebody different who's not part of the establishment. And so they elected a non-politician who was promising, at least he made the promise, to drain the swamp of these people who were trying to take control of America, trying to take power out of the hands of the people. The pendulum has swung. But the ideological battle between the Jewish extremists, these people that today we call globalists, between them and the non-Jewish nationalists, it's not over. It's continuing to heat up, and we can see this playing out in the news every day between the anti-fascists and now this Marxist black power stuff being pushed in the NFL. And so we can expect to see even sharper swings to the left or right, both ways, as the common people of the nation sense the need or think there's this need for leadership, leaders who are willing to take even more drastic actions than the normal political parties or politicians will do. And this is what gradually leads to dictatorship. The people looking for some kind of help and willing to give their grant excess power into the hands of either a single person or a group around that person, such as the Nazis. This leads to dictatorship. And the fight that these Jewish communists are waging to take control of America is being played out before our eyes in the microcosm of the NFL. For example, it's indisputable fact, I've shown you the statistics before, that no people on earth put more financial backing behind the radical homosexual movement than the American Jews and the Israeli Jews. They push it hard. The Jewish communists have always believed in fracturing nations from within by exploiting groups and turning them against each other. This is classic, planks right out of the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx. And so the NFL has been turned into a propaganda outlet to promote homosexuality. It's football. Of all institutions to be promoting the gay agenda, the National Football League? It makes no sense. We've seen pro-gay Super Bowl halftime shows and things like this. But the communists have also always exploited race. They always use race to divide and conquer. So when we look at these football games and see black men raising the communist symbol of resistance during the national anthem being a song proclaiming peace and freedom through obedience to God, you see this, and some people, at least those who are into history and studying this kind of stuff, you realize, oh yeah, the most reputable polling company in the world, the Pew Research, has shown statistically that the most atheistic nation in the entire world is the state of Israel. And as a block of people, culturally, the Jews are are per capita more atheists than any other people on the planet. So as a nation, save maybe the Chinese communists. So it's no wonder that these pro-communist black supremacists are raising the clenched fist of resistance to the American ideals of peace and freedom through obedience to God. The Jewish communist agenda says no God, establish atheism. This is just, like I keep saying, this is classic communism. This has always been part of the communist agenda. Marx and Engels wrote about this in great detail. You must eliminate religious faith, and you exploit the racial differences and create division. So when we realize that these people protesting aren't just blasting the country that is affording them with so much opportunity and are actually promoting an anti-American communist agenda, well, that's a different story. That's not a good thing that we should emulate or praise. These people deserve all of the condemnation that they're getting. And I know that this may sound unusual to people, my viewers outside of the United States, but if my non-U.S. viewers had a population of black people in your country waging an all-out propaganda campaign to blame you for all of the horrible things like slavery and equating you with a slave owner and disparaging you and hating you because of the color of your skin, well, you too would be very upset at what's going on. And it's gotten so bad in America that last night, as my daughter, who's in high school, they're having Spirit Week at school, and each day of the week there's a different thing. You're supposed to dress in certain colors or patterns or whatever. And so for today, it was supposed to be celebration of the United States. So she wanted to wear, red, white, and blue colors, be patriotic. And one of my teenagers has it's a funny shirt. It's a black and white picture of Ronald Reagan with like this Rambo red, white, and blue bandana on his head. It's silly, but she wanted to wear that shirt. And my wife and I, knowing that fights are going on at this high school where the blacks are fighting, they are initiating fights with white people who come to school wearing things that are either pro-Trump or anything like that. They're accusing them of being racist, and they're just assaulting them. We had to have a discussion with my daughter about why we can't let her wear, that shirt of Ronald Reagan to school, because it would put her safety in jeopardy. And that's a crazy thing. That's a crazy thing. When I was in high school, I was I was a total geek. I used to wear ties to school most day. I dressed kind of like a little conservative twit. I carried a briefcase instead of a book bag, and I actually had a framed picture of Richard Nixon that I carried in my briefcase with me. And I also had this little locket that, like a, what do you call it? One of those things that goes over the front of your necktie. And in the locket was a picture of Ronald Reagan. My grandmother had been invited to go see Ronald Reagan in Miami years ago. So I had a picture of that in there. And that kind of thing today will get you beaten to a bloody pulp, because that's how extreme the people have become. And so that's a concern. So if this issue was reversed and blacks were being beaten up because of what colors they wore to school, or if they, if they drove to school in their cars and they had an Obama bumper sticker on it, and white people came along and smashed the windows out of the car, which has happened this year at this high school. Somebody with a Trump sticker had their car, first day of school, police had to come in because a group of black guys just busted up this guy's car. If that was happening, to the black people, everyone would be screaming, racism, racism, KKK, there'd be riots. All the major cities would have the thugs out there setting everything on fire. But when it happens to the white people, nobody's saying anything. So it's becoming a little more difficult to not feel some resentment toward those black, white, every color in between, who are persecuting people like me because of my skin color. It's not a bad thing that I was born white. I can't help it. It's just the way I am. So racism, whether it's coming from blacks towards whites or whites towards black, is wrong. We have to condemn it. And the black supremacy in the NFL is promoting racism toward white people. I don't support that. Well, that brings me to the next point that my friend in Australia raised. He wrote this. He said, I know there is evil abounding these days, and alas, we are being distracted to no end while nefarious deeds are visited upon humanity. I am very concerned with the path we as a species seem to be traveling down. I look at my children and wonder what kind of world they may inherit. I look at America and will often sadly shake my head. It used to hold at least the illusion of hope, and dare I say it, liberty. Now all I see are a people who are turning on each other. It leaves me with little confidence as I watch Americans seemingly determined to tear their own country apart, as well as the world around them. Under the ANZUS Treaty, of course, we loyal Aussies have followed you guys into every conflict you've entered into since World War II, 77 to date at last count. Many Australians have died for your causes that, quite frankly, we generally don't understand and certainly don't benefit from. Even that fuzzy feeling you guys seem to get from your flag. Well, we don't. He goes on to say, I haven't got any answers, just trying to see my way through this crazy, crazy world. I don't like where we're going, where we seem to be going. I just pray we forget our differences, perceived that they are, forget the labels, and begin to remember what it really is we are here for. At the moment, it looks to be divided we fall. I wish you and yours luck in the coming times. So I thought that was an eloquent way of expressing himself. And I feel so much of that. So I told him that I lived in Southeast Asia for years, and I came to see from outside of America how obnoxious the American people seem to come across to those who live outside of the country. There are definitely plenty of our citizens who are patriotic to the point of pride and unjustified arrogance. Jingoism is not something to be proud of. It's not a good thing. So thinking about what Daryl wrote, I realized that much of my own pride in America is largely nostalgia for how things used to be. What we have become today is really a cheap substitute for what we once were as a nation. Today, we're a nation in rapid decline. A spirit of divisiveness and entitlement has made the people of America, it's like we're drunk, intoxicated with our own arrogance and pride. Once upon a time, we were satisfied with being friendly toward all nations without having to form entangling political alliances. We were satisfied being a simple republic. But today we have become this sprawling empire reaching out all around the world. Our government is used by crony capitalist corporations to wage wars for oil and other resources. The entire war on terror is a massive Zionist scam. We live in perpetual debt to the bankers. We bully other nations around. So yes, I agree. I hate to see what America has become and where it seems to be continuing to go, especially since what America has done since around the turn of the 20th century. The first decade of the 20th century is when we really started to spiral downward in the 1910s. And of course, since 2001, we've been lurching even further. The sun is setting in America, I'm afraid. But even with all of that, there is still so much to be proud of. I remember the good that has come to the world from the American free enterprise system. I know that many Americans, and I'm partial to the South, especially Americans in the rural South, I know that many Americans are still good-hearted people. And my hope is that we can exert enough influence to alter the current trajectory of our nation. May not be a really strong hope, though, given the trend that we're following. And I really like something else that Daryl wrote. He wrote this: people, I guess, are too comfortable in this modern age of entitlement, as you say. This is concerning to me. I actually ponder lately at what can be done. Funnily enough, I have come to the conclusion that we need another Carrington event. And for those of you who don't know, the Carrington event, it happened in 1859. It was a powerful coronal mass ejection that shot out from the sun. It generated this massive geomagnetic solar storm that struck the entire Earth. If that happened today, it would just fry our entire electrical grid. So Daryl continued. He said it would, if a Carrington event happened, he said it would certainly be painful, but hey, so is the road ahead. If the electricity grid of the whole world took a hit like that, granted, we would be thrown back into the dark ages, but I believe it would offer humanity as a whole time out to consider or reflect upon where we have been going. Maybe the spell we seem to be under would be broken. Getting back to the earth and having to collect firewood and grow veggies and hunt and gather to sustain our own lives may give the people a wake-up call that's needed. I worry that we have become too technologically dependent at the cost of our minds and hearts and eventually souls. This stuff that Daryl is writing, this guy's like my twin brother here, the way he's thinking. I love that idea of a simpler life. I could even handle it if we had no cell phones, no television, no internet, just people living in harmony with the planet, lacking the ability to conduct full, large-scale slaughters against each other on the magnitude of which we're capable today. Of course, there would be lots of significant downsides to not having electricity and all that. I don't deny that, but still, the sense of family and community would be wonderful. Here at my house, we have fun doing gardening. We garden each year. We've got fruit trees and berries and herbs that we grow. We have we do a lot of wood chopping ourselves in the backyard to take the logs and burn in the fire pit we have in the outside. We just sit around as a family and talk. It's especially nice in the fall when the weather is getting chilly. But anyway, I know things are rough in America, and I know that our government is doing very awful things because evil people, and not just I know I sound like I'm coming down hard on the Jewish communists and the Zionists, but there's plenty of other people, all us Goyim, there are plenty of others who are contributing to the overthrow of our nation. So I know things in America aren't right. And even though I don't see a return to how things used to be completely, I don't consider myself a pessimist. I believe that we can still make a difference if we choose to. And I see our flag not as a symbol of an evil corporate-controlled America, but I see it as a symbol of once made us a great nation, and that is our faith in God, our obedience to his laws, which resulted in the twin blessings of peace and liberty. That's what I see when I look at the flag. That's what I feel. That's what I get a sense of. Because that's what the flag has stood for over the years. It doesn't have to represent the bad things that our government is doing. Our flag should be a reminder to us of better times before we let our government get out of control. Maybe the flag can be a symbol of inspiration for us to try and get those days back. I don't know. I guess time will tell. But I do worry that a widespread campaign by the communists to create a general disrespect for our flag will dramatically alter public perception of our country and our heritage. And as history has proven, being a history major, I have seen this over and over. When a nation forgets its heritage, it undergoes radical transformations, and almost never for the better. And America has an incredible history. So I want you to, I've got this picture up here. I want you to try to visualize the scene that Francis Scott Key was witnessing when he wrote our national anthem. It was during the War of 1812, and the British were invading America for a second time. This invasion was part of a larger war that the British were fighting against Napoleon and France. It was a war that the Rothschild banking dynasty had its fingerprints all over. The British had marched into Washington, D.C. They burned down our Capitol, turned the White House and the Capitol building, everything, just burned it down, turned it to ashes. The United States President James Madison, who was the primary author of the U.S. Constitution, he was on the run, fleeing for his life. Okay, this was a dire situation in American history. And on September 11th of 1814, the British Navy came in and it positioned itself along the coastline of Baltimore, squaring up against the American fort known as Fort Henry. It was a crucial fort that the Americans had to hold on to if they were going to stave off this British invasion. So once in place, the British began their onslaught. It started on September 12th. Now, Francis Scott Key, he was an American lawyer. He was also an amateur poet. He was being held captive on a British ship. And so he could see this battle going on. And he saw a giant American flag flying defiantly over the fort, Fort McHenry. And he was there present to watch the entire battle firsthand as it unfolded. So the British Navy, they were carrying about 5,000 British soldiers on a fleet of 19 ships. They need to get past Fort McHenry to enter the harbor there so that the infantry could get off the ships and carry out its invasion. Francis Scott Key watched the naval bombardment begin, and the British shelled Fort McHenry for 25 hours straight. Merciless shelling of the fort. And much of the time it was during a period of heavy rainfall. So this thing, Francis Scott Key is watching this battle. It seems to go on forever. It certainly goes on all throughout the dark night. All the while, he was catching glimpses of Old Glory waving defiantly in the air as these bombs were lighting up the night sky. This is what he wrote. "Oh, say can you see, by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bomb bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there." That is what Francis Scott Key saw. He saw America in its darkest hour, defiantly standing for freedom against insurmountable odds. And when the light of dawn began to rise, the flag was still there. It had holes in it from some of the fire that it took, but it was still there. And his poem was originally named Defense of Fort McHenry and was only later retitled The Star-Spangled Banner, becoming the national anthem. So the next time that you celebrate the 4th of July and you're shooting off bottle rockets or watching, fireworks, remember what those fireworks represent. It's a symbolic reenactment of what Francis Scott Key saw during the Battle of Fort McHenry as America fought for its very survival. That flag that was waving proudly over Fort McHenry, it still exists. I've seen it. You can see it too if you go to the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. They take you into a darkened room. You sit down on a bench. There's a kind of a glass wall that partitions the room, and you can see the flag. It's huge, gigantic flag. It's dark. There's just dim ultraviolet lights so that the light doesn't damage the material. But looking at that flag and the noble history that it represents, it filled me with a sense of hope, and I still have the visual memory of that in my mind. And it gives me a sense of hope, I think, in much the same way that it did for Francis Scott Key, because we are under assault. We're under assault again today in America by the same people, the same Rothschild syndicate that attacked or manipulated the forces back in the 1800s. It's the same people. So I am not going to allow these anti-American communists, like the dimwits in the NFL, to change what my flag means, to change what it represents, to tear up and rewrite history. This flag does not represent the evil of the Rothschilds and what they're doing. Yes, they're presently in control of our government, but that's not what the flag represents. The flag represents defiance of them and their agenda. So don't give it up to them and let them co-opt the flag and what it means. My fellow Americans, don't fall for the propaganda and let them take away the power and the symbolism of the American flag from you. Defend the honor of what our flag represents. Remember, above all, those words that I read to you in the beginning of what from the Star-Spangled Banner. Oh, thus be it ever, when free men shall stand between their loved home and the war's desolation. Blessed with victory and peace, may the heaven-rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then conquer we must, when our cause it is just. And this be our motto, in God is our trust. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph shall wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. For the End Times News Report, I'm Jake Morphonios.
Okay, sorry about that. Just literally pulled the meat up off the grill. So, let me grab you something while I finish getting all that stuff together. And we'll go from there. Let's see. Not going to do the JSNIP crypto video. You're welcome. Here we go. Let's put this up. Ms. B. Stacy uploaded a video titled November 18, 2017, Bundy versus U.S. Case Update, Never Before Seen Interview. That might be kind of interesting.
Okay. Oh, you're okay.
Okay, we ready?
Okay, we're ready. Well, good evening, everyone. We just got out of court. It's been a really long day. I've got Kenny Rhodes down here. He can sit there with us most of the day, listening to everything. It was literally a long day, and we're just getting out just moments ago. So sorry about getting here so late. Got a couple of announcements to make, and then we'll try to talk as much as we can in a short amount of time about the hearing today. One is we don't want everyone to miss the parade that is this coming Saturday, and Jeanette Finneycombe's going to be a part of that with Lavoie's horse. We're going to have another team of horses, I've been told, here at the parade with a lot of the Bundy family in that wagon and team. We're welcoming people to come and join us either in the parade or come down here and set up on the street right here where we usually set up and to inform people, be a part of it. Be a part of freedom. But that's going to be at 9:45 is when the parade starts. So people need to get down here early if they want to be a part of it. As early as 7 o'clock just to get a parking spot, get set up, and bring signs, bring constitutions or whatever you can to pass out. There will still be a hearing tomorrow morning, and it's at 9:30 in the morning instead of 8:30. So 9:30 tomorrow morning is going to be the detention hearing for these guys. We made small progress today. We have a lot of work ahead of us in this evidential hearing and dismissal hearing. The judge denied a couple of the motions right off the bat this afternoon when we started court, but she entertained other motions that had been filed, and there's just a ton of overpowering evidence supporting multiple cameras. We brought one witness on the stand that testified that he's seen 3 different cameras in 3 different locations surveilling the Bundy Ranch, surveilling the flagpole staging area, and also surveilling the First Amendment area. So we have a first-hand witness that's seen this camera, these cameras working and surveilling during that whole time there. The 5th of April, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, for close to a week. These cameras appear to be there surveilling these different areas. And the government has denied this for the last year and plus, and never has told the defense team that these existed. The snipers got brought up today, and the government has denied that there's snipers existed. And at one point, Mr. Myrie made a point, well, it's not unlawful, it's not uncommon for a BLM officer or a federal agent to have a gun. It doesn't mean he's a sniper just because he has an AR-15. We should apply that into these shootings that just happened here in Las Vegas and in Texas. When we say a man goes in with a gun and shoots people, that they consider him a sniper. The same thing at the Bundy Ranch. These BLM officers were prone on top of high vantage points with weapons pointed at protesters or at people just there that was trying to protect the Bundy family. The Ryan Payne's attorney brought several good points up that his client, Ryan Payne, has been accused of spreading false lies about there being snipers and being this type of thing there, and we found out today that Ryan Payne told the truth all along. The reason why Ryan Payne showed up there to protect the Bundys and to be there in support of them. So there's several lies that were uncovered today by the prosecution, by Steve Myrie, and he was literally stumbling today trying to explain himself why he has told these lies for the last couple of years. So we had a good day today. We moved just very slowly forward. We like to see big leaps, but these small victories are great. It's helping the defense prepare more if we do go to trial next week. So today was a great day for the defense. Tomorrow's even going to be a better day. We've got 4 individuals here that's been in prison for over 2 years, and it's time for them to be released and go home. And that's what we're praying for tomorrow, that these men get to go home to their families, even if we move forward to trial, that they get to be home and come back every day instead of sitting in a jail cell. As some of you guys know, that Ammon and Ryan have been held at Henderson for the last 10 days, and they were not getting proper care. They didn't get ever booked into the jail. And a lot of questions have been out there the last few days of what was going on there due to the strip searches, the excessive strip searches, and the abuse there. Ammon and Ryan finally got moved back to Pahrump, to the CCA Henderson, the CCA Nevada Southern Detention Center out there. And what information I've got from them, they are thankful to be back there. They said it's horrible at Henderson. The treatment was horrible, and they are in a lot better spirits. Ammon, the day you could tell he had a shower, he had a shave, he was clean shaven, he was in clean clothes. Even if they wore jail scrubs yet, it was a totally different uniform. And Ammon looked happy. He was moving around the courtroom, waving at different people. He was all smiles today. And so was Ryan Bundy. So all 4 defendants looked well today, looked good, and they was happy. Other than that, do you remember anything else you want to say about some things in there?
Yeah, I don't think you covered it, but the FBI had cameras up, yet they wasn't recording. Somebody might have took a few notes, but they didn't record anything.
There's
Isn't that amazing?
A lot of lost information. There's days that they don't know nothing what went on, like the 6th, for instance, of April 2014. There's no information on what happened with those cameras on the day of the 6th at all. It's all missing.
Do you gentlemen find it at all plausible that a camera in 2014 would be not recording? And
it doesn't make sense. Even the judge wasn't buying it. And that's where she ordered the prosecution several things that she's ordering them to come up with by this coming Saturday at noon.
Seemed like a victory for the defense.
It does. It seems like a victory.
Yeah.
It was a great day for that.
What did you think about the one witness's testimony that we heard where he said the camera appeared to be the size of a football? Doesn't that seem quite large for a camera?
That was interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. This camera is the size of a football. And then I noticed Steve Myrie said, you said this camera is black. And he said, I didn't tell you what color it was. He said it looked like a globe or something kind of round on top, and it looked silver. And he was about 5 feet from this camera, the size of a football.
And didn't Ryan Bundy describe it as having a laser on it?
And he did. He said there was a laser on it, and it was pointed at the Bundy Ranch.
So I wonder what a football-sized camera that's not recording with a laser on it might be up to.
Exactly. That's a good question. Some questions we're hoping to get by this Saturday.
Right. Well, so I'm here with a news outlet called Crowdsource the Truth, and part of the reason why I want to put these ideas out there is because the many thousands of people that will see this video will now be able to respond to us, and maybe someone will know what type of football-sized device with a laser on it, what it might do, what it might be. We'll find out.
Exactly. Reach out to us. We want to know what this was about.
Why do you suppose the government and the FBI and law enforcement have been so brutal in their treatment of the Bundy family?
They're trying to break them. They're trying to silence them. That's their main goal.
But why? Why them?
There's something they want, and the Bundys are setting on that out there. That
Is
ranch.
it uranium on the land?
I don't know for sure about that, but there's something that they want. They've shut down every rancher in Clark County. They're the last standing rancher left.
What can you say about Harry Reid?
I don't have no respect for Harry Reid. I think he's a liar, and he needs to be brought in this court himself.
He called us domestic terrorists. No, he is a terrorist. He was in our government. I think he's got out of it now, but he is a terrorist.
And for those
I tell him that to his face.
For those who might not know you guys, can you just tell us who you are, if you'd like? Or
I'm John Lamb. I'm from Montana. I've been covering all these trials, trying to report what I see as a courtroom reporter, observer in these courtrooms. I was in Oregon. I was here for the last 2 trials, and we're trying to expose this corruption.
My name is Ken Rhodes, and I stood up at the Bundy Ranch the day of the standoff. I also went to Oregon, so I've seen their tyranny. And everybody better get ready for it, because they're going to bring it on all of us.
someone in the hearing today told me that elements of the FBI that were present at the Bundy Ranch are now involved in the investigation of the shooting that took place here in Las Vegas on October 1st. Do you guys know anything about that?
I am just learning that today, and I'm trying to find out more about that. But some of the same FBI we were told today are involved in this shooting here in Las Vegas. That's what we were told today.
Involved in the investigation?
Involved in the investigation of the shooting, yes.
But if you look at him, when Lombardo was up there testifying, he had an FBI agent just staring at him there, waiting for him to say anything wrong. So Lombardo, he testified in the first trial here. He lied here, and he's lying now on the shooting in Las Vegas.
This is more, it's been bigger than just the BLM or the prosecutors here. We have FBI agents that have sat every single day in this trial from day one. They sat in the room, they testify,
Really?
They sat with the prosecution on certain days and advise the prosecution as they're asking questions.
Do you think there were FBI in the galley there today?
Well, there definitely was. I know which ones they are.
Really?
There's multiple FBI agents that sit right among us every single day.
Really?
They've testified on the stand, so we know it for a fact.
That's
Joe
very-
Willis. Joe Willis is an FBI agent. He's in the courtroom every single day. He's testified on the stand on every single trial here, and he sits there with the prosecution every day.
It's against the court rule.
It's against the court rule?
It's a court rule for any witness. You have to be outside.
Administrative procedure.
And then, yeah, administrative procedure. Yeah.
Most witnesses are not allowed in the courtroom during trial.
Unless
if you're
they're
gonna be
a
called
government witness.
Unless you're a government witness, and then you can still be in the courtroom listening to the whole trial, and then still be called as a witness.
So does it seem to you guys that the government, the prosecution, is basically just doing whatever they want?
They definitely have been so far.
Absolutely.
Well, that's why it's important for us to be here and for us to cover this and get the word out to as many people as possible.
It definitely is.
That's why everybody tells you, well, the FBI's got a 95, the government's got a 95% conviction. Yeah, because they put them in these prisons, hold them for 2 years, mistreat them and wear them down. A lot of people take plea deals. They consider that a victory, that you're found guilty. You have to plead to something.
Did you ever think you'd see the United States of America that looked like this?
No, I'm 74 years old. And 20 years ago, I wouldn't have believed none of this. I've been like all these fools driving down the road out.
And one thing the prosecution wanted, Mr. Myrie wanted everyone to believe today, it's a common practice to see a video camera or a surveillance. Why are the defense team so worried about this? He said, this camera at the Bundy Ranch. We see hundreds of cameras here in Las Vegas. We're talking about 80 miles out of town in the desert.
You know,
why is there?
He said that actually stuck out in my mind. He said that there's a camera that in the hundreds of thousands of acres of public land, and here's a camera. That is pretty odd.
It is. Hundreds of thousands of acres, and it's set in 5 feet from the road, which
Looking
is
at the
pointing straight
house.
at the Bundy Ranch.
And whoever set the cameras there are not from Nevada. So where are they from?
How do we know that?
That's what they said in there. Then we need to know where they're from.
The agent that set the cameras up is no longer in Nevada. He was at the time in Nevada at the time he set the cameras up, but right now he's not available to testify because he's no longer in Nevada. It's conveniently he's gone.
Right, he would have all the information.
He's in the swamp in Washington, probably.
Were those cameras live streaming, or were they just videos, or were they live streaming?
They claim they were just live streaming, but the technology of these cameras, it doesn't make sense. The judge is not even buying it.
Not only that, they said it was live streaming to 3 separate locations, including a tactical operations center. Why would that not be recorded?
That's a good point.
That is looking for targets.
Yes.
That's looking for targets.
The camera was sending live streams, yes, to 3 different locations, not just there on the ground where the BLM was staged at. It was sent to 3 different locations. They haven't disclosed where them other locations. One of those locations could be Washington, because Washington was giving direct orders for these BLM officers or how they was impounding these cows.
Is the Bureau of Land Management controlled by the FBI?
They're controlled by the Department of Interior, which is probably FBI's involved. I don't know.
They're all involved.
Yeah.
Well, the FBI's are strong arm.
Got it.
So did the judge make any final rulings today?
She denied the first part of the motions, and then the ruling she did make was a small step for us, and that was telling the prosecution they had till Saturday at noon to give up this information to the defense team. So that's a big move for us.
Very good.
And the hearing tomorrow?
The hearing tomorrow starts at 9:30, and that is for a detention hearing for these 4 guys. So we're praying that they get to go home.
All those snipers have radios too, that they can, if that's live streaming, they can send that information to those.
Oh, wow. Kind of ended abruptly. Okay. Let's see. We Are Change has one, and I'm going to go ahead and go to that because it's simply what the title includes. It's, wow. What's the Vatican doing at Bilderberg? And detained 2 times.
This is Ogrodowski of WeAreChange.org here during the first day of the Bilderberg meeting in Turin, Italy. And of course, nothing to see here, just politicians canoodling and colluding with, of course, business titans, venture capitalists, banksters, technocrats, the military-industrial complex, and other influential fields of basic life. And this year has been particularly very interesting since it seems the Bilderbergers have become a little bit more shy. As through our reporting today, we have been detained twice. I'm hearing from a fellow reporter friend of mine that he had his hotel room busted in by the police at 4 o'clock in the morning and had a gun put to his head. And we're hearing another report of a journalist that also had a gun put to his head and was detained and interrogated for 6 hours. Nothing new, of course, since, of course, we had similar incidences happen to us during our previous coverage of Bilderberg. Hola, ciao. How are you? How's it going? Okay, take 2. Here with Dan Dix of PressForTruth.ca. Today was a very interesting day, Dan. They definitely were a lot more skirmish than they usually are here at Bilderberg, where, 120 very influential people come together with no mention of the mainstream media while taking security from the taxpayers and spending millions of dollars on it, preventing people like me and you from actually reporting on what's happening here, intimidating us, scaring us, and also going all the way out with this insane security. No mention of the press, by the way. What a shocker. But today we saw a lot of police officers, a lot of undercover police officers, a lot of high-level police officers, military, bomb-sniffing dogs, a lot of machine guns, a lot of different things. Can you go, let's go through the day and just tell us what you saw.
Sure. We started the day by going to the airport first thing in the morning, as we usually do. Those of you who've been watching our work for over the years know that we get most of the good confrontations and the good conversations with Bilderberg members at the airport.
Yeah. And just to cut you off, last year it was brutal what me and Dan did. We were at the Dulles Airport in Virginia, and there we actually had a filming permit obtained, and all the Bilderbergers couldn't get away from us, and we had like 20, 30, I think even close to 40 confrontations with them. Some of them talked, some of them didn't talk, but this is the most important thing. When we're able to actually look them in the eyes and be there one-on-one with them, they're actually able to say something. So we had a lot of people say a lot of things last year, but once, with all this heightened security, they of course won't ever say anything at all.
Yeah, I think they basically learned their lesson after what happened last year and decided they got to switch up their strategies because this time was completely different. We got here and we pretty much didn't see a single Bilderberger for probably a good 5, 6, 7 hours. And then they gave us a little pinned-in area for the press to try to get photos from. And of course, 1 or 2 guys came out. There was absolutely zero chance of talking to them whatsoever. So after about an 8 or 9 day of hanging out at the airport getting nothing, we decided to pack it up and leave and try to get something better. So we went to check out the private airport, and wouldn't you know it, this is where all the kingpins are coming in. This is where, the prime ministers and the heads of state and these types of guys were rolling in. And before we could even get a chance to talk to any of these people, they detained us. They took us to the side, they demanded all of our passports, and kind of held us off to the side for a little while, until they ran their security checks, their background checks. And long story short, they had nothing on us. They couldn't keep us, so they let us go. And we were able to then go on to the private airport property and continue to do what we do. And sure enough, we ended up getting a couple of good questions in, namely to the Prime Minister of Serbia. I asked her, what does she feel about the rise of populism in Europe? Because that's on the agenda for this year's Bilderberg meeting. So I said, let's see what she thinks about it before she even goes.
Yeah, they're definitely going all out this year when it comes to the secrecy, the privacy. They've been setting up awnings here because there's a little viewpoint in a shopping mall right above the hotel where you can actually see what's happening, and they're setting up awnings everywhere so no one gets a sight. They're extremely, extremely camera shy, and you would think of a meeting with no significance, with no mention of the press, with people just saying, no, we're just hanging around having a good old time. You'd think they would be as secretive, but of course they are. And this year's meeting is definitely interesting, not only because of the location here. The location is at an old Fiat car manufacturing plant, but Fiat has also played a very significant role in Bilderberg ever since the beginning of Bilderberg. But also a lot of new things are happening here. We of course have the governor of Colorado here, who didn't list this meeting in his official schedule, and many people are saying that this is going to be the man that's going to be running on the Democratic Party in 2020 against Donald Trump. We're not seeing that many Trump representatives like we did last year. We do see Peter Thiel and Henry Kissinger and Donald Trump's former co-chair of the Federal Reserve, who resigned, also here at this year's meeting. But it's also a very European, very woman heavy kind of meeting. And the thing that sticks out to a lot of people here, especially this year, is of course this is the first year that they're having a member of the Vatican. They're having a cardinal who is designated the Secretary of State of the Vatican, actually coming here to Bilderberg for the first time, mixing religion into this very business heavy, technocratic heavy kind of agenda that they always have, which is like kind of mind-blowing to see. This is also Turin, the town, has a lot of significance because this is where the cloth of Turin is. Is that how you say?
The Shroud of Turin, yeah.
The Shroud of Turin. Dan knows more about this. He's going to explain this in a little bit. The Shroud of Turin is, which is supposed to be the cloth that Jesus Christ was wrapped in after he was crucified. Then he came back to life, and it imprinted his image. Many scientists argue and still debate about this. Some people say it was a medieval prank. Some scientists say no, this is legitimately Jesus Christ's cloth that he was wrapped in. So a lot of spiritual, religious significance here too. What do you take from that, Dan, since you're also very religious as well?
Well, I don't put a whole lot of weight into the Shroud of Turin. I don't know if that's real or not. Just like you, I mean, I'll take it with a grain of salt. It's been debated over the years. I have no idea if that thing is real or not. Still, it'd be interesting to check it out while we're here. But back to the Vatican, I mean, the fact that they have a cardinal here at the Vatican is very interesting. And when you want to talk about religion, look at the Catholic Church, one of the biggest in the world. So when you have, over 1 billion followers, of course you're going to want to be able to control that and manipulate that. And I feel the Catholic Church has been infiltrated by these types of elitists centuries ago, and it's really gone down the tubes, probably since the 15th or 16th century, maybe even earlier, maybe since the Pope banned the Knights Templar, and they probably had a vendetta against them ever since. And now they're trying to maybe get them back into the fold so they can really control that 1 billion group of followers. So it's interesting to see somebody like that here at Bilderberg meshing with the power elite of the world today.
Well, the Vatican has been more and more political, especially with the new Pope that just came in, calling for more mass migration, calling for more leftist policies, calling for migrants to assimilate and to mix in with the European cultures because the European countries are dying with their population. So we're seeing a lot of politicizing, especially with religious aspects here at Bilderberg for the first time.
Correct you. I'm not necessarily religious. That's what they are. You know, that's the Catholic Church. That is religion. What I have is a personal relationship with my Creator. That is something very, very different from what I see coming from the Catholic Church. A lot of people I know who are born and raised in the Catholic Church are some of the people who hate God the most. They're staunch atheists. They hate the church, and you know, so I don't put myself into the camp of someone who's religious. I don't even like to use the cliche term spiritual. I just simply have a one-on-one personal relationship with my Creator.
Talking about God, let's get into AI and the AI heavy meeting that this is going to be taking place with so many people from Google, with so many people from other artificial intelligence, biometric companies also being here, which is also terrifying. Another connection to the Pope, which is interesting. Henry Kissinger, who of course is here, has been advising the Pope officially. But really, when we're talking about quantum computing and artificial intelligence and DeepMind and all the Google executives that are mixing here, I think that is something to really, really be worried about, especially with the advanced technological advancements that they have been making with so much power given to Google and so much authority given to Google. It's really, really interesting to see their presence, as well as Peter Thiel presence, as well as other technocrats presence kind of be established here more and more every single year, which shows you kind of direction that they're going to. But this is just what we're seeing here on the first day of the ground. Dan, do you want to say anything else about artificial intelligence or just your first day here at Bilderberg?
Well, I think it comes down to their getting back to the times of old of wiping out the middle class and reducing the world to two groups, the very rich and the very, very poor. And it's quite potential for this new quantum computing and AI technology to do that, to be able to achieve such an agenda. So that's what we could be seeing them, this year, having all these tech gurus and people of that nature. Not only that, these venture capitalist firms that are known for funding tech startups are also here. So it's like they're trying to, scope out who they should be funding to bring into the inner clique moving forward in order to wipe out the middle class. So, it's going to be interesting, and that's why we come to these, to continue to document it, get to the bottom of the agenda. It's only day one. We've already had an interesting day one. We've still got, 3 more days to go. So, should be good.
And it's definitely going to get more interesting from here, as obviously we are going to be on the ground reporting for you here with everything that happens. We're going to investigate those stories that we're hearing of more intimidation by the police. As you can see, we're being kind of there's guys watch right now, and they're right behind us. So don't tell anyone. But obviously we have nothing to hide. We're here mainly because of you, mainly because of your donations, mainly because of you guys buying our t-shirts, which Dan also has Bilderberg t-shirts. We have Bilderberg t-shirts for sale. Your purchase helps make this broadcast possible, and we're here putting our butts on the line because we believe in reporting on something that the mainstream media will never touch. You got to be better than the mainstream media, and it begins here with doing the job that they won't. This is something fascinating. This is something interesting. This is something that needs to be reported on, and it's only being reported on because of you and your support. So again, thank you again so much for watching. Stay tuned for more.
Alrighty, gonna do Prepper Nurse 1 next. Well, I'm not gonna do him, but you know what I mean. I'm gonna play his video. Get your mind out of there. Anyway, he's got a video titled, "Is the Government Trying to Get Fathers Out of the Family Home?"
Hey everybody, Prepper Nurse 1 here. Today is Thursday, June 7th, 2018. I'm not going to go into everything else today. We're going to go right on topic of this video, and there's a lot to kind of go over, so I wanted to really start it out right away so that we were right on topic. Topic of the video: is the government trying to take the father out of the home? And my answer to that is a resounding yes, and I'm going to tell you why. We can go back to the 60s. We're going to start back in the 60s to begin with, okay? When they did the whole welfare reform and everything like that. And these government workers went into the poorer neighborhoods around the country and said to all these mothers, well, you know, if there's not a father in the household, you can get more benefits, okay? So there was incentive for these women to not have a man in the picture so that they could get more benefits from social services to be able to, you know, and that gets the man out of the home. You know, so of course, obviously these women had boyfriends and whatnot and stuff like that, but the fathers a lot of times were not in the homes because there was no incentive for that family unit, okay? Now the other thing we're going to talk about too, so I want to bring that up first because that goes all the way back to that time period, okay? The court systems, and I'm going to go by New York State, but I know this is across the country, but New York State's pretty bad. When a husband and wife divorce and there's children involved, okay, 9 times out of 10, if not more, the child are always given to the mother. Always, okay? No matter how much of a piece of crap the mother is, they're always given to the mother, okay? And she's the custodial parent, if you will. And so the problem with that situation is, and I want to explain it one way, and then we're going to get into it more, okay? So you got a husband and wife. Maybe they're not getting along. There's problems in the marriage and stuff like that. So the incentive is not to continue on with the marriage. The wife goes to a lawyer. The lawyer says, well, listen, you know, if you leave, you know, I can get you child support. I can get you maintenance. I can get you money for babysitting. I can get you money, you know, for make sure that he pays the health insurance, all those type of things. So the women go, well, why should I stay? Why should I try to work things out? Why should I, you know, try to do that? So a lot of times they leave, okay? The men are always going to be penalized. It happens so many times. Now, first of all, before everybody jumps on me about this, there are some deadbeat fathers out there. There are some pieces of crap fathers out there. I'm not saying that there's not, okay? But when you have 2, 3, 4 kids and, you know, you go your separate ways, and the father has to pay for all the health care coverage. He has to cover part of the babysitting. He has to pay child support and possibly also pay maintenance if she was a stay-at-home mom, okay? So now this poor son of a gun is out there working himself to death, and he doesn't have enough for himself to survive upon after paying all this money out every week. I had a cousin of mine that, you know, he had several children, and so he was paying a lot of different child support and stuff like this. They were garnishing his wages to the point where after he worked all week, 40 hours, he would get his paycheck and literally would bring home, and this is no exaggeration, guys, he would bring home $10 a week. Okay, now his wife was working as well, so they had income coming in from that way. But you know, it was just the system is set up against men. It is absolutely set up against men. To get the father out of the household. All these kids, a lot of these kids today are being raised without a father figure in the household. Now, I'm going to tell you what, for myself, I consider myself very blessed. My grandfather was my father figure, okay? My mom, you know, and my father divorced when I was very, very young, and my biological father gave me up for adoption to a stepfather so he did not have to pay child support, okay? That's the bottom line. I really didn't get to know my father until I was about 27 years old. I saw him once at 16, I saw him once at 19, and at 27 I went and sought him out because I wanted to have some kind of relationship because he was my father, okay? And I found out what kind of person he truly was, okay? So that is what it is, okay? I made a vow to myself I was going to be the type of father that I did not have, okay? Regardless if my relationship worked out or didn't work out, I planned on being involved in my kid's life no matter what. And I am, obviously, as anybody who watches my videos know, they know that I have my kids. And I'm going to tell you something that I think is kind of interesting in that. I cannot tell you guys the number of times I have heard from women and men, but mostly from women, and they say to me, "You have your kids?" And I go, "Yeah." I have my kids. I said, somebody has to be responsible. Besides just even being responsible, they're mine. So I'm going to take care of my children, okay? That's a vow I made when I was a child, that if I ever have children, I am going to be there for my kids. Woman involved or not, they're my children. So anyway, so a lot of these women, you know, the incentives are not to have that man in the picture. They got it made on Easy Street. Like I said, New York State, you know, they will crucify a guy. Now, like I said, I can't speak for other parts of the country, but I've talked to other men that have dealt with similar situations, and it's pretty much across the board. But New York State's pretty bad, okay? You know, as far as that goes. But, you know, no matter, like I said, how big of a piece of garbage the mother is, 9 times out of 10, the courts are going to give custody to that mother. It happens constantly, okay? Now, like I said, now I definitely want your guys' feedback on this video. I know I have a lot of female subscribers to my channel, okay? I'm not attacking women, ladies, okay? I just want you to know that ahead of time. This is not about trying to attack anybody or anything like that. But I have seen so many guys. Now, here's another problem that happens a lot of times. Children are used as tools, which is a horrible, horrible thing, okay? They will, I'm going to give you another example from my own family. Have my uncle who lives in California. Now, he's passed away now, okay? He had 3 children with his wife. They ended up going their separate ways. Of course, it's California. She got custody of the children. He was ordered to pay child support. Well, he wasn't able to pay that child support for whatever reasons, and it was none of my business, and I had nothing to do with that, so I have no idea what those circumstances were. But she withheld those children from him, would not let him see his children because he would not or could not pay his child support, or would not, or whatever the circumstances were. Now, was he still the father of those children? Absolutely he was. Here's another thing that happened in that. The oldest child, and I'm not going to, you know, say names because it's like, you know, because that way somebody can put 2 and 2 together. But the oldest child, she went and tried to have a relationship with her father, okay, and started to see him and started to talk with him. Her mother said, if you continue to see your father, I will cut you off. And she stopped that relationship like that, okay? That is wrong. It's horrible. It should never happen. That, regardless if the mother's a piece of crap, regardless if the father's a piece of crap, regardless of the fact that if they're both really good people, okay, they're still the parents of that child. The child should never be used as a pawn. It should never be used as a tool. It should never be used for control. That I will put that down there completely. Here's the thing, like I said, I have my kids, okay? I have never, ever once, ever said, no, you can't go to your mother's. And I never will. They visit their mother as often as they want to, okay? Generally, it's on the weekends. And, you know, Eddie goes more than Heather does, okay? But the thing is, it's like, I would never do that. Not only to her, but I would never do that to them. That is still their mother, okay? So that to me is something that is absolutely abhorrent, that people do that to their children. That they use their children as a tool, and it's a control mechanism, and then they vilify the father, and the father's a piece of crap because he didn't do this or he didn't do that. Whatever happened in your marriages is what happens. Those children are still your children together, and for the greater good of that child, you should try to get along. Now, let's put it like this. You know, me and my ex don't always get along. We have our disagreements, okay? But the thing is, for the most part, we focus on the children. And it's like, so, like I said, that's what's more important to me. I want my kids to be happy. I want my kids to be well-rounded, okay? They have 2 parents, not just one, okay? And the problem is, so many of these fathers, and there's a lot of absentee fathers, don't get me wrong, that don't want nothing to do with their kids and the whole 9 yards, okay? It happens a lot, unfortunately. But the system is set up to destroy the family unit, to get the fathers out of the households. Now these kids are growing up without a father, going buck wild, acting like lunatics, okay? Because they don't have that structure. They don't have a positive male role model. And that's a problem. That's a huge problem in this country. And I'm talking about the United States, okay? I don't know what happens over in Europe or what happens in other parts of the world, in Asia or, you know, or wherever else in the world. this video, I'm talking about the United States, primarily in New York, because that's the experience that I have as a parent, is in New York State. Now, luckily I had a lawyer that got a great deal for me, and we have joint residential custody of the children. Now, are they with me 90% of the time? Yes, they are, okay? But that's okay with me. They're mine, and I will take care of them. I love my children more than anything else in this world. And because I love my children, I would never, ever, ever stop them from seeing their mother. Now, I'll tell you what, I get zero in the way of support for my kids. I've never asked for it. I don't want it. They're mine. I'll take care of mine, okay? But that's another whole situation. Anyway, unfortunately, in this country, it is set up, especially in New York State. Like I said, I can't speak for other parts of the country, but I'm talking about New York. They want the father out of the household, and then that poor son of a gun is working himself to death. I've watched my cousin do it, okay? And he's paying for all these mistakes, if you will, that he made with several different women. But that was his choice. He laid down with him. He made those children. He needs to accept his responsibility. But when they cut you so much that you have nothing to live on, where's the motivation as a man then at that point? There isn't. And that's what they want. They want the man out of the picture. Now the state is raising those children. It's ridiculous, okay? I definitely, guys, I want your feedback on this video. I really, 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 truly do, because this is going to be, I think, one of those hotbed issues. Like I said, this is not an attack against women, okay? This is not, you know, just defending poor men, okay? Again, like I've said before in this video, a lot of men are pieces of crap. But there's a lot of women out there, too, that are pieces of crap, that get custody of their children and don't take care of their children the right way. And they hold those children back from seeing their father, which is absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. Okay? So that is my opinion. It's the state wanting control, being the nanny state, and they do it all the time. And I think it's horrible. And so I wanted to do this video. I was talking to some people that have been dealing with some issues with custody stuff, and I just thought this was a really, really important topic to bring up. I've seen it with my own eyes. It has affected me directly as well. But the thing is, like I said, you know, for me, my priority, I always tell people this, and it's like, and I'll say it again in this video, I have 3 priorities in life, okay? My number 1 priority is my kids, my number 2 priority is my kids, and my number 3 priority is my kids. Now, I hope you realize what my priorities are. That's where I stand, and I'll say that every day of the week, okay? I love my children more than anything else, and I will always be there for them. I have told them, I said, I will always be there for you as long as I am alive, and that's the only thing I can promise them, because as I say in my videos, tomorrow's not guaranteed, guys. We never know what's going to happen, okay? So I definitely, I don't know, let me see how long I've been rambling on here. I got to make sure I don't go too far here. All right, I've been going for a while, so anyway, I'm going to jump off of here, guys, but I want your feedback on this topic. I think it's a very, very important topic. It needs to be discussed. There's a lot of horrible things that are happening out there, and these children are not having both of their parents in their life, which I think is absolutely horrible. They need both a mother and a father. All children do, okay? So, and I'm going from my own personal experiences as a child of divorce. I was like, why didn't my dad want me? How could he not want me? I couldn't understand it. I could not understand it. How could he give me up for adoption and not care about me? You know, and that hurts. That bothers you. And that's why I went and sought him out when I got older and was like, why? You know, and of course he had this excuse and that excuse, but excuses are like a-holes. Everybody's got one. The bottom line is he signed those papers. It was his decision, and that's what it comes down to. And, you know, for circumstances of control, the mother, whatever, the whole thing, it is what it is. But he could have put his foot down and said no, and he didn't. But that's his choice, and it was his loss, okay? But anyway, remember, guys, hug and kiss the ones you love. Tell them every day, tomorrow's not guaranteed. We never know what's going to happen. And remember, STD. It's one step at a time, one thing at a time, one day at a time. Whatever you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to accomplish, you can do it. The only one that's going to stop you from getting there is yourself, honestly. And that is so, so true. And, you know, don't listen to the negativity, guys. I just had somebody made a comment the other day that she's down in Texas and wants to move more inland, higher elevation. And her mother's all negative, negative, negative in her ear. And I hope you're watching the video and hope you see this, because Don't listen to that negativity. Follow your heart. Do what you feel is right in your heart for your children. That's the important thing. Now, like, comment, share, please. I think this is a really important topic, and it really needs to be addressed. And I definitely, guys, please give me your feedback, because I want to hear what you have to say. Okay? I will talk to you all tomorrow. I hope everybody has a great day. Prepper Nurse 1, out for now.
Alrighty. I think he done a hell of a job on that. I spoke with him before he made the video, and so I knew what video he was going to do today. But of course I didn't know, of course, the exact content or anything like that. I seen it the first time that you have, but I think he done one hell of a job. He done an incredible job on that. Hit the nail on the head. Absolutely. Hats off to him on that. And that is a topic that needs to be front and center, because it's got to, the war on men, and that's what it is. Make no mistake, it's a war on men. It needs to stop. It really, really does. Let's see. The interesting thing is the other day, and I shared it on the Watchman News Facebook as well. On the Watchman News Facebook, the pinned post is an image of a, I think it's a woman, a man, and a child, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go look just to make sure. But the man's not in the picture. It's just kind of like an outline. And I'm trying to pull it up, but Facebook is a nightmare. They are so bogged down. It's coming up. Let's see. I can't believe it's taking this long just to pull up my Facebook page. Okay, yeah, it says New World Order, and it's a picture of a woman holding a baby, and an outline of a man holding a little girl's hand. But it's the man isn't really there. It's just an outline. And it says New World Order, mass defathering of our children, breaking up of the family unit so we are easier to control. And that is essentially what it is, right? If you go back to, lessons about Nazi Germany and Auschwitz and all that stuff, one of the very first things they did as they brought people into the camps is they separated the women and the men, right? And they're doing that in a lot of areas. Homeless shelters. Most of your homeless shelters will not allow a husband and a wife to get peed together in that homeless shelter. The women go to one shelter with the children, and then the men go to a different shelter, if there's even a shelter that will accept the men. Okay? And that's how it's set up. And then, what's going to eventually happen, just like happened in Nazi Germany, it's much easier to get the children from the women. It just is. I'm sorry. It's a fact. It just is. That's why they do it that way. And, the thing is, I would imagine he's probably going to get, they're really going to go after him. Some people. He's got a lot of support, but I imagine that there are going to be a fair amount of people that go after him for this video. Because they don't want to face the truth. I don't know what to tell people, but it's the truth. You're looking at, they're trying this year to get Father's Day changed to, I think it was Special Persons Day or something like that. And I've got two words for you. F you. I do want to say it. I want to scream it. No, I don't. I'm not riled up, I really don't want to curse on the show. I really don't. And when I do, I'm upset. And I'm not upset. If I talked about this topic long enough, I would be stringing them together. I'll tell you that right now. Because I want nothing more but to have a life with my children. But because some scumbag, lowlife, handout, Harriet bitch knows that she can use the system and knows how to use the system and knows about these parts of the system, which is partially my fault, then, she's going to take that easy street. She don't care what happens down the road. She don't give a damn about anything except herself and in front of her feet. She doesn't care about tomorrow, the next day. She don't care if my children never have a chance in life. She don't give a damn about anything but what she can get for free. And since the government will offer her a free ride, she'll jump right on it. It's insane. It's insane. But men aren't supposed to talk about it. Men aren't supposed to be victims. Right? No different with the white people, right? Because, nobody else can be racist but white people. Yeah, well, men aren't supposed to be victims. This society is so screwed, it's unreal. Anyway, that's a topic that I could go on and on and on and on about, and I won't. Otherwise, I will be stringing them together. And I would like to not do that. Let's see. I do really, really miss my boys. And there's nothing I can do. And I've heard a bunch of people, well, you could do. No, there's not a damn thing I could do. You want to give me about maybe $50,000 so I can pay for an attorney? No? Well, guess what? Nothing I can do. Nothing I can do except experience more heartache for myself and for my children for trying. And it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it at all. I mean, my children are worth everything to me, but what people don't get is it's not that easy. If you don't have an attorney that will fight, first of all, you got to find an attorney that wants to fight for you. Because most of them, you just hand them your money, they don't give a damn what the outcome is. So first of all, you got to find an attorney that wants to fight for you. Then you got to be able to afford that guy. Without that, nothing but heartache. On both sides. It is what it is. It's not right. But most men are in my same situation. There ain't nobody to jump in front for them. Nobody. Nobody will come forward. Nobody will. Nothing. Nothing. On your own. Why? Because men aren't victims. Amazing how that works. Absolutely amazing how that works. Okay, let me go here. Ron Paul Liberty Report, titled 6 Against Trump, Who Wins at G7 Summit?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With me today is Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Good to see you, Daniel.
How are you this morning, Dr. Paul?
Doing very well, and we have a little bit of international politics to talk about. There's a meeting coming up in Canada, up in Quebec, and Donald Trump is invited. He's going to go. It's the G7 meeting. I don't know if you got your invitation or not. I didn't get mine.
I'll be there.
So you're going to, but anyway, I guess they don't invite people like us that want to deal with the issues. But the G7 is interesting. It's been around now, since 1973. A good Republican, Nixon, got it all started. I keep thinking about all the things that get started under the Republicans. Things like this and the war on drugs tariffs, and of course the plunge protection team was started by Reagan in 1987. So the Republicans actually don't stand up to this big government stuff. But this is international government that they brought together the 7 most important, countries to meet and talk about economic matters. But if you look at it, it turns out to be they don't deal with substance. They deal with fluff and politics and propaganda, and they try to sway markets and things. But this year, is being painted as something very, very different. It's Donald Trump against the world. And under these circumstances that stand here, the mediocre seriousness of all this, I would say under these conditions with the whole world, and these, actually they say 7 countries against Trump because they claim there's too many Americans that don't like his tariffs, and they're going to talk about tariffs. But they're going to come down hard on him, is what the story is. But quite frankly, I think that Donald Trump will love it. He's going to have his day because there's nothing he likes better than to be criticized, and because he can come back and they don't know what to say. I understand that he was on the phone with the Prime Minister of Canada.
Trudeau, yeah.
Trudeau. And he says, and the story is that in talking about this, and Trudeau doesn't like Trump so well right now because Canada's going to suffer from these tariffs. So the story goes that Trump said, hey, wait a minute, Mr. Prime Minister, I don't know about this, but you guys burned down our White House in 1812, and we're still hacked off about it. So I was telling you earlier, I said, can you imagine what that poor guy, wonder what he had to say? We never heard his answer. To be brought up and blamed for burning down the White House, and Canada was part of course, of Great Britain at the time. So anyway, the prediction of fireworks and the stirring up, my assumption will be nothing serious will come of it all because they won't even talk about the serious problem. They're going to talk about tariffs and sanctions and all, but I don't think they're going to come up with a solution. But I do predict that the ritual says that at the end they have to show unity, and they are doing something. So they will have a statement. Trudeau has already, indicated, well, if it doesn't say something about these tariffs, I'm not going to sign it. My assumption is they'll probably find something, water it down, and I even think that Trump very well, like what he does, he puts up a good fight, and then he gives a little bit, and they'll have something done, and they're going to have agreement, and the world will go marching on down to the depths of this economy, because I don't think they're going to touch on what the real problems are. So we're going to keep an eye on this. They're going to meet Friday and Saturday, and it'll be in the news Friday and Saturday. Maybe that's because the markets won't be open at the end of Friday nor Saturday to see. But the markets will go up and down in response, but they're not going to change the economy. And they're probably not going to change Trump's opinions about how to run the world.
Even if some of these things we may agree with the Europeans, what they're upset about, it's hard not to root for Trump in a situation like this because of all of his faults. I think one of the things that's most attractive about him is his ability to wrong foot all of these goofy foreign leaders, socialist foreign leaders. But here's Bloomberg's list of particulars why they're so furious with Trump. Pulled out of their climate change deal. That drove him crazy. Canceled U.S. participation in the Iran deal. Ignited a global trade conflict. We haven't even seen the full extent of that yet. And attacked Europe for not spending more on the military. That's what the Europeans are mad at. They're predicting that Merkel is going to challenge him on every issue. I would pay to sit there and see her trying to read him the Riot Act and see what his response is.
Well, the president's economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, somebody I've known for a while, and his beliefs are reasonable. He describes himself as a free market capitalist, but he bends a bit too. And I was a little bit surprised that he did, but it's not surprising to find out when you get an invitation, I can be, on the president's team. So he's with him, but I think he's sort of already dancing because I don't think he has any liking at all for tariffs. I think some of these people that get involved because they say, well, maybe we can tune them down and control them. And that may be true on some, but I don't think that's necessarily true under the circumstances of working for Trump. I think if he's made up his mind that tariffs are the way to go, I think he's going to stick with those. And even though he's up and down and nobody knows exactly where he stands, I don't think that he's all of a sudden going to give up and say, you know, I sort of made a mistake. This tariff war isn't working out so well for us. And but I think Larry's going to have to, you know, give some endorsements, but go along with it too often.
It'll be interesting to see what he does. You know, I was researching a little bit. I was cheating. I was looking on Wikipedia, figuring out what's up with the G7. We've all heard it. But you can forget the origins easily. And I was going to throw this at you to see what you thought. It's kind of interesting. The G7 was born, as you point out, in the early 70s, and it was born to help coordinate economic initiatives in response to the global shock of Nixon closing the gold window. Isn't that interesting? Talk about interesting unintended consequences.
Yeah, a lot of people were worried down the IMF, and everybody was very much involved because that, of course, I've talked about it for a long time. That was a very big deal. And, of course, it disrupted the currencies. Instead of having a currency theoretically tied to the dollar at a fixed rate, all of a sudden, all these fiat currencies were floating. And that was very, very disruptive. So they didn't know what to expect. And matter of fact, I think it lasted and it survived a lot longer than a lot of people believe, because it was able to produce a society where they could depend on America's wealth and America's dollar. And now the world is very dependent on that. I saw just recently Indonesia wants to say they were critical of us trying to get the monetary policy in order. They say, well, you're winding down. That might mean you're going to raise interest rates and probably hurt the value of the dollar, all this management stuff. And so they were hoping that we wouldn't do that, that we would keep inflating, which is rather strange. Before, if you were on a gold standard, or even under the pseudo gold standard, you didn't have any of this. You didn't have futures markets on the currencies and all, because they were all the currencies were based on gold. But I could imagine very much. But I would say that even though the system has lasted for a long, long time, my argument is all they have done is they built this horrendous, malinvestment. They took a problem they were worrying about correctly, but now, because it's been held together and they coordinate and they concede so much to us, because they have conceded the whole idea that we can print the gold. And then they wonder why there's trade imbalances. Why should we work and earn the money to go and buy stuff from China and other places? We can just print the money. And of course there's going to be trade imbalances. We're going to spend more money over there. We're going to buy more of their stuff. If we had to earn that money, it would be a different story. There would be a much better balance. So they had a right to worry, but I would say they're totally unsuccessful and drifted over toward more social issues and environmentalism and climate control and things like that, which they've accomplished nothing.
And the continue on Wikipedia, they said, and this is why there's nothing to get too excited about the G7. Starting in 1999, they decided to get more involved in directly managing the international monetary system. So, not anything to get too excited about there.
No, and it's the mismanagement of the monetary system that has brought us to the brink of trade war. See, trade war it always comes as a consequence of imbalances in currencies, imbalances in trade. So the trade war shouldn't surprise anybody. And it surprises me a little bit that everybody, it seems, or so many people have drifted toward accepting this, and Trump is, in ways, some places, a hero. But now we have the objection coming not from the free market. Never in all this process, even during Bretton Woods and all, nobody really talks about sound money and free market. So they went along with this, and now the chaos is there, and the consequence is these trade wars. We can solve the problems by sanctions. I'm a little bit surprised that Trump can get away with this. At the one thing, there's the announcement, we are the strongest and the richest, and we have the best economy in the whole world, but everybody's cheating us, and therefore we have to punish you, and we're going to do this. We need a better trade deal. It's almost like we're doing the best, better than anybody else, but you guys are going to get punished. Why? Because we're doing so well and we have this power. But what's going to happen is that eventually the confidence in the dollar will be lost. And I do think the dollar is here, I don't know whether there will be a consequence of this meeting, but the dollar will resume going down once again, and you can't measure the dollar against other currencies. You measure the dollar against gold and purchasing power, and that's all going to change, and that's why most people are recognizing now that there's going to be inflation. If they were dealing with monetary policy and serious problem, they'd be dealing with, the dollar standard, inflation, the business cycle, the malinvestment, debt. They're not even going to touch that.
Yeah.
They're just going to say, keep it going, and it'll last forever. This is a new era.
A new era. You know, whenever you start getting down on Trump and you feel bad about his kooky foreign policy and all of his dumb neocons, you just have to look at his enemies to make you a little bit more sympathetic.
Yeah, that's right.
And here's one that I've followed for a long time, and he's a real annoyance, is the former NATO Secretary General Anders Fogh Rasmussen. And he's quoted, I think, in the Bloomberg piece, going off on Trump. He said, quote, "Trump is a fully fledged isolationist who's opened the door for Putin and Xi to play a bigger role on the world stage." And he continued, "The world is on fire. Wherever you look, we have conflicts. Now you are lacking American leadership, and this is why autocrats have a more easy game to play." But if the world really is on fire, it's the U.S. has been lighting the fires, the U.S. global leadership. Look at Syria, Ukraine, Libya, and elsewhere. So it's kind of like the arsonist complaining about all the fire damage everywhere.
Yeah, I think what you point out is the destruction of words, the meanings of words. Because here we are, we have an empire. We're the super globalists, and we brag about it, and we're everywhere. And we have the control of the monetary, the financial system. Anybody who crosses us, we just put sanctions on. They have trouble working in the banking system. And be called an isolationist?
Yeah,
I mean, it makes no sense, you know. So I think a little more isolations will help, but we don't call ourselves isolationists. We call ourselves non-interventionists. Matter of fact, we're very much for trade and travel and these sorts of things on a voluntary basis,
Yeah.
and not on a coercive basis, and not punishing people and not threatening people, and not getting involved in so many wars going on, and seeing that military spending as a boost to the economy. Yeah. All of these are fallacies which have misled us into this situation where this debt is so horrendous, much bigger than $21 trillion. It's probably $200 to $300 trillion when you look up all the assets. Now they're talking about right now, maybe they're admitting that this bankruptcy of Medicaid is going to come much sooner than they ever thought.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'll be dealing with the cost of medical care up there and why that happens and why we spend too much overseas, and maybe we could have a better system here at home.
Yeah, that's true. And there's another quote that should give us a little bit of enthusiasm. It's not meant to sound that way. It's all of the globalists are furious about Trump's go-it-alone attitude. But here's Ian Bremmer of the Eurasia Group, and I think this is a great quote, although it's supposed to show how terrible Trump is. It said, "The old order is over. What we're fighting for over now is as the new order emerges is whether the U.S. wants to have the most important seat at the table or not. Right now, the answer is no." Great. That's fantastic. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah, that's it. But I'm not expecting that they're going to solve any problems. There's going to be a lot of grandstanding, a lot of fancy speeches. I think everybody's going to have to be tough. Tough and nasty and playing to the world audience, because they will get attention. And if you take a socialist authoritarian, he can't come home and look like a wimp.
Yeah.
Being pushed around by this non-socialist isolationist Trump. So they're going to pound on him. I think they will. But I think they'll lose it. I don't think they'll accomplish that. He's an expert at this, and I think he proved it the first night of the first debate that he had when he ran for president. He was in charge of that thing immediately and had the stage ever since. So this is you're going to hear a lot. You'll hear tough words from Trump, tough words from the other ones. It'll sound like so vicious. It could get out of hand. So even though I'm sort of leaning on saying not much is going to happen. So maybe you will antagonize 1, 2, or 3. And if they did, and it got personal, and they wouldn't sign some kind of pseudo pretend agreement at the end, that could have some ramifications. But I think they'll play the world stage, and they can look at home and look at what I told Trump. We stood up to him, but Trump will carry the day. That'll be the news. And if anybody challenges him, he says, "I'm going to Twitter about you. If you don't behave, I'm going to Twitter about you, or I'm going to put tariffs on you. I'm going to put sanctions on you. I'll bomb you if you don't do it." I didn't know I had so much power as president, and if you treat me right, I'll give you a pardon, which I like. Matter of fact, the ones so far, the pardons aren't a bad idea. I love this idea of victimless crime people getting pardoned. Somebody was complaining about him giving a pardon to the lady that had a lifetime sentence for a non-violent drug dealer. He says, "Well, you shouldn't do that. There are thousands in there, and they're being mistreated." Fine.
Yeah. Let them
give them all a pardon if they've been nonviolent. And this whole idea about the drug war, matter of fact, that could be a worthy thing to study, or talk at a meeting like this. What can we do on curtailing this? Because Trump's involved in that because of trade. We're going to go to that border, and our borders are so vulnerable, Mexico, which we sure have heard a lot about, and those terrible, terrible drug dealers. Well, if they were all legal, there's nobody down there carrying beer over the border. Is there? You can go to the drugstore and buy beer.
Bring your own.
So, but if you want something else, you got to go down there and subsidize the drug dealers. So that kind of stuff, I think, would be a worthy discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to end by doing something I don't do often enough, which is to thank our live viewers as kind of a great little team of people who get together as like a coffee clutch, and that's we appreciate you. We run into you whenever we go out, wherever we go to conferences, and we really appreciate you watching it, and I hope you'll share and have more people subscribe to our YouTube. I also want to bring up again our conference. We just talked about it the last couple of days, August 18th. We've got a great lineup already. We're putting more people on the queue. But it's ronpaulinstitute.org/conference for more information. Dr. Paul is going to be a speaker. What more reason do you need to go? If you need any more enticement, Lou Rockwell is going to be there. We also have other great people. Ray McGovern's going to be there. Remember, he was beat up trying to protest Gina Haspel's nomination. He's going to let us know what happened when he was there. Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson is going to be there. He's on our board. One of the most eloquent anti-war voices you will find anywhere. We are really looking forward to having him back. He was at our 16 conference and very popular. So grab your ticket soon, get the early bird rate, save a little bit of money, and we will really look forward to seeing you in August.
Very good. I want to thank our viewers for tuning in today, and I want to emphasize the fact that although this little report was a little bit on the light side, it is very serious. I think it's all propaganda malinvestment. Just as you spend money in the wrong places when you have low interest rates, I think some of this propaganda stuff is all misdirected. It doesn't mean we shouldn't be talking to people, like I indicated in the program, that maybe we ought to talk about, why the borders could be different if we didn't have this war on drugs. There's so many things that could be talked about. It could be an academic seminar, but they do not bring up the things that I think and libertarians think and free market people think, and that is that how does the business cycle work? Why is the monetary policy important? Why is sound money better than fiat money? Why do we need central banking? And why is it that you have one country that can get so powerful and become the dictator of the world and have the empire because they can get to print the paper gold? So all these things are important, but unfortunately, all you see at a meeting like this is fluff and propaganda, and it is a shame. It'll be interesting to watch, but let's hope that there will be a few items in there that will make people stop and think, well, maybe there is a better way. Maybe we don't need managed trade and fair trade and NAFTA and WTOs and all these organizations are supposed to regulate the economy. In a free market, the people regulate the economy. They buy and sell, and they have voluntary arrangement. And guess what the result is? Peace and prosperity. So that is our goal, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report, and please come back soon.
Fun, 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 fun. Okay, High Impact Vlogs has one that we'll do to close up, titled People Still Don't Understand What Makes Government Government. I do. Bunch of bullshit.
This video is brought to you by all you guys who make this channel possible through Patreon and PayPal. We're all sick and tired of being lied to by mainstream media and watching everybody around us, including family and friends, be programmed by network so-called news stations and political psychopaths who spend their time and your money trying to legislatively remove individual rights from the rest of us. Your support for this independent journalist, commentary/documentary style channel helps to produce more hard-hitting content. Since my main channel was terminated by YouTube, I've received many encouraging emails and messages from a lot of you guys out there. And now I'm even more emboldened than ever to get the truth out. So here's to everybody out there who's thinking outside the box, questioning everything, and doing their part to make this world a better place. And I just want you guys to know that if YouTube ends up kicking me completely off of their platform, I will not stop uploading the hard-hitting content that you want to see. So subscribe to my highimpactflix.com website and to my BitChute channel. On both of those platforms, you're going to see uncensored content. Somehow, some way, you'll get the content that you support and want to see. You guys enjoy the video. In their attempts to justify the existence of a ruling class or government, statists, those who believe in the legitimacy of government, often describe perfectly reasonable, legitimate, and useful things and then proclaim them to be government. They may argue, once people cooperate to form an organized system of mutual defense, that is government. Or they may say, when people collectively decide the way things like roads and commerce and property rights will work in their town, that is government. Some also say, when people pool their resources to do things collectively rather than each individual having to do everything for himself, that is government. But guys, if you think about the facts, none of those statements are true. These assertions are intended to make government sound like a natural, legitimate, and useful part of human society. But all of them completely miss the fundamental nature of government. Government is not organization, cooperation, or mutual agreement. Countless groups and organizations like supermarkets, football teams, car companies, and archery clubs engage in cooperative, mutually beneficial collective actions, but they are not called government because they're not imagined to have the right to rule. And that is the secret ingredient that makes something authority, the supposed right to forcibly control others. Governments don't just evolve out of supermarkets or football teams, nor do they evolve out of people preparing and providing for their mutual defense. There's a fundamental difference between how can we effectively defend ourselves and I have the right to rule you. Contrary to what civics textbooks may claim, governments are not the result of either economics or basic human interaction. They don't just happen as a result of people being civilized and organized. They're entirely the product of the myth that someone has to be in charge. Without the superstition of authority, no amount of cooperation or organization would ever become government. It requires a drastic change in public perception for a service provider, whether the service is food, shelter, information, protection, or anything else, to transform into a rightful ruler. The system of organization cannot magically become government any more than a security guard can magically become a king. And that fact relates to another claim of status. Remember, a statist is one who believes in the legitimacy of government or authority. And that claim is that doing away with government would simply result in violent gangs gaining power, which would in turn become a new government. But violent conquest does not naturally become government any more than peaceful cooperation does. Unless the new gang is imagined to have the right to rule, it would not be seen as government. In fact, the ability to control modern populations, especially armed populations, depends entirely on the perceived legitimacy of the would-be controllers. Today, to rule any population of significant size by brute force alone would require an enormous amount of resources. weapons, spies, mercenaries, so much so that it would be nearly impossible. The specter of a gang of ruthless thugs taking over a country may make for an entertaining movie, but it cannot actually happen in a country equipped with even basic communications and firearms. The only way to control a large population today is for the would-be ruler to first convince the people that he has the moral right to exert control over them. He can acquire dominion only if he can first hammer the myth of authority into the intended victims' heads, thereby convincing his victims that he is a legitimate and proper government. And if he can accomplish that, very little actual force will be required for him to acquire and maintain power. But if his regime ever loses legitimacy in the eyes of his victims, or if he never achieves it to begin with, brute force alone will not provide him with any lasting power. In short, neither gangs nor cooperatives can ever become government unless the people believe that someone has the right to rule them. Likewise, once the people as a whole free themselves from the myth of authority, they will not need any revolution to be free. Government will simply cease to exist because the only place it has ever existed is in the minds of those who believe in the superstition of authority. Again, guys, politicians and the mercenaries who carry out their threats are very real, but without perceived legitimacy, they are recognized as a gang of power-happy thugs, not government. It should also be mentioned that some have claimed, including Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence, that it is possible and desirable to have a government which does nothing except protect the rights of individuals. But an organization which did only that would not be government. Every individual has the right to defend himself and others against attackers. To exercise that right, even through a very organized large-scale operation, would not be government any more than organized large-scale food production constitutes government. For something to be government, it must by definition do something that average people do not have the right to do. A government with the same rights as everybody else is not a government any more than the average man on the street is government. Guys, if you have any thoughts or objections about any of these assertions in this video, leave them in the comments section below and let's talk about this because this is very, very important. Guys, don't forget to take a second to go to the highimpactflix.com website and subscribe if you want to see more of my content. One way or another, we're going to fight censorship. Hopefully, the people at YouTube will get their heads out of their asses long enough to realize that thinking people on their platform aren't going to tolerate their tyrannical tactics for much longer. But I wouldn't hold my breath. Guys, if you like what we're doing here on this demonetized, censored channel and you want to support the effort, the Patreon, PayPal, and Bitcoin links are below. If you want to support the channel by grabbing a shirt or two, check out the new in-your-face designs like Black Rifles Matter, Escape from California, Taxation is Legalized Theft, and Sheepvolution. I'm adding new designs every week, and I do take design requests, so check back often. Thank you guys for subscribing, watching, sharing, and especially for all your kick-ass, thoughtful comments. I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored, demonetized video.
Alrighty, guys, and with that, I am gonna get out of here. I got a few things I gotta get done, and God willing, we will be back tomorrow and do it again. I'm so ready for the weekend. Man. Anyway, I'm gonna get off here, get those things done, and we shall see you all tomorrow. I want to thank you all for coming. And as always, God bless you, we love you, and be one with your spirit. Catch you tomorrow, folks. Have a good night.